Chapter 2793. Ice Spirit's Decision 3. But Ice Spirit was completely dumbfounded. He didn't hear wrong? Did Bing Yao say that she wanted to acknowledge him as her father? For a moment, Ice Spirit was confused and uncertain. After a long time, Ice Spirit asked carefully. Bing Yao, what did you just say? I said I want to acknowledge you as my father, damn it. What kind of reaction is that? Bing Yao was already angry at the Ice Spirit's lack of reaction. But when he saw that the Ice Spirit didn't hear him clearly, he was even more furious. It had to know how much courage it had to muster to say those words, but this despicable cheap father wanted it to repeat them. It was really too infuriating. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to hear this so suddenly. I was overjoyed and didn't know what to do. Ice Spirit explained when he heard Bing Yao's displeasure. When Bing Yao heard this, he was quite satisfied. In fact, it was also very nervous. It looked at Ice Spirit shyly and said, Father. Bing Yao, you call me father again. Bing Yao's voice was soft, but Bing Po could still hear it clearly. However, he couldn't believe that this surprise came so suddenly, so he wasn't sure. When Bing Yao heard this request, he was instantly enraged. You weren't paying attention again? How much courage did it take for it to call him father? But now he had to. The furious Bing Yao was about to explode, but when she saw the anticipation in Bing Po's eyes, her heart softened and she obediently called out, Father! With the experience from last time, Bing Yao called him father much more smoothly this time. This was the first time in tens of thousands of years that Bing Po had heard the word father. He was moved to tears. Ice Soul, who had dreamed of becoming a father, had finally gotten what she wanted today. His son, the son that he had lost for tens of thousands of years, had finally returned to his arms. Ice Spirit was so happy that words couldn't describe it. At the same time, the Ice Phoenix was also very excited as it was the first time it called someone dad. This feeling was very novel to it. So after calling someone dad twice, it continued to call them dad. The Ice Spirit was very happy to hear this. Bing Yao was also very happy. After taking this step, Bing Yao discovered that acknowledging this father wasn't as difficult as it had thought before. The more he called him father, the more smoothly he said it. The father and son hugged each other even more tightly. After the two of them were close enough, he finally remembered to tell Lung Ruoxue this good news. However, when they saw Lung Ruoxue, the depressed father and son suddenly realized that Lung Ruoxue had an expression of it's a matter of course on her face, as if their reunion was already within her expectations. Little girl, can't you show some surprise and joy? Ice Spirit couldn't help but ask. Exactly. Little Shue, can you not look like you knew this would happen? You should know that we are the first ones to let you know about this. You have to cooperate, right? Bing Yao also agreed. All right. I'll cooperate. Lung Ruoxue nodded helplessly. Then she put on a surprised and incredulous expression and said to the two of them, This is really good news. Congratulations on your reunion as father and son. The moment Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she saw the father and son in front of her lower their heads at the same time. After looking at each other, they sighed at the same time. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. Hey, aren't you guys going a little too far? You asked me to cooperate, but you're not satisfied with me. What are you trying to do? Lung Ruoxue was furious. Little Shue, we asked you to cooperate, but your cooperation is quite insincere. You don't even look happy. AI. Little Shue, your acting skills need to be improved. Bing Yao said helplessly. Yeah, I don't think it's sincere either. As for her son's words, Ice Soul, who had made up her mind to be a filial father, naturally supported him 100%. All right. Now you're all on the same side, aren't you? You've even learned to anger me. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Did he have to be so realistic? One had to know that Bing Yao had been acting coquettishly in her arms just now. Hee. Ice Soul, who was content with having a child, could only giggle foolishly after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. Bing Yao leaped into Lung Ruoxue's arms and tried her best to act coquettishly. She even coaxed, Little Shue, don't be angry. We're just joking with you. I know I'm not really angry. However, the reunion of you father and son is indeed a big event. I've decided to give you guys a good celebration. Lung Ruoxua said after some thought. There's no need to celebrate, right? Just give me something good to eat. Bing Yao requested after hearing this. Little gluttonous cat. You're acting as if I'm short of your food. This is a big event for your Qilin clan, so you must celebrate. Lung Ruoxua smiled helplessly. Yes, Shuer is right. We should celebrate and let all the people know that I have found the little prince of our Qilin race. Bing Po agreed with Lung Ruoxua's words. He wanted everyone to know that Bing Yao was his son. His only son. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxua turned to look at Ice Spirit and asked, How do you plan to introduce Bing Yao? Thanks, he's my son. Ice Spirit said in a daze. I mean, how do you plan to tell the clan that the Ice Phoenix has a master? Lung Ruoxua explained more clearly. I haven't decided yet. Ice Spirit hesitated. Seeing her father like this, Bing Yao knew that the matter of her acknowledging a human as her master had put her in a difficult position. However, Bing Yao didn't regret her choice at all. Her feelings for her master couldn't change just because she had acknowledged a father. Thinking of this, Bing Yao said without a care, I'll just tell them directly. I don't plan to return to the Qilin clan anyway. Bing Yao. Bing Po was sad. Didn't Bing Yao acknowledge him? Why did he say that? Father, acknowledging you and returning to the Qilin clan are two completely different things in my eyes. I can acknowledge you, but I don't want to return to the Qilin clan. For so many years I've gotten used to living a slow life. You want me to suddenly return to the Qilin clan to live with so many Qilin? I have no choice. In comparison, I'm much more comfortable with humans. After all, I've been living with humans since I was young, and I've already gotten used to their way of life. So I really don't want to go back. Please understand, father. Bing Yao explained. Bing Po was disappointed, but he agreed with Bing Yao. Because he knew very well that Bing Yi had made this decision not only because it was as it had said, but also because it didn't want his identity to make things difficult for him, its father. AI. What a sensible child. He really let it down. The more she thought about it, the more she felt guilty towards Bing Yao. At the same time, he made an important decision in his heart. After leaving Lung Ruoxua's place, Bing Po went to find Shui Mo. Shui Mo was very surprised to see Ice Spirit at this time. However, he could tell that Ice Spirit had something important to discuss with him, so he didn't tease his brother. Ice Spirit didn't beat around the bush and said to Shui Mo, Shui Mo, Bing Yao has accepted me. Really? Then congratulations, big brother, for getting your wish. Shui Mo was very happy for Ice Soul. At the same time, he was glad that he didn't have to face Ice Soul with a sad face anymore. But Bing Yao's identity is a bit. Ice Spirit stopped halfway. He hadn't told any of his clansmen that the Ice Phoenix had a human master, so he didn't know how Shui Mo would react if he told him. This also caused him to stop halfway through his sentence. Shui Mo didn't know how to read minds, but he could tell that Bing Po was hiding something. He said, What's so difficult about his identity? You also know that when the Ice Phoenix was stolen by the Fog Phoenix, it wasn't born yet. Later, the Fog Phoenix threw the Ice Phoenix to the lower realm, and it's unknown whether it's alive or dead. Ice Spirit stopped and looked at Shui Mo. Shui Mo knew that his brother had not finished his sentence, so he waited patiently for him to continue. Ice Spirit sighed and continued. Originally, after being thrown away by Fog, it would be very difficult for the Ice Phoenix to survive. However, a human saved it, so the Ice Phoenix acknowledged that human as its master. The Ice Phoenix has a master? Shui Mo asked with uncertainty. Yes, I am. Ice Spirit nodded. What kind of person is he? Shui Mo asked again. The little prince of the Qilin clan had a human master. This was a big deal, so he didn't know what to do at the moment. I haven't seen him either. I heard that he's Shue'er's friend. He's currently in seclusion. Ice Spirit said honestly. Then can you have the Ice Phoenix break the contract with its master? Shui Mo continued to ask. It's not possible. Bingjia and its master have a very deep relationship. Besides, I can't do that. After all, Bingjia has helped him. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to see Bingjia. Ice Spirit said honestly. Then does Big Brother want me to tell my clansmen? Shui Mo asked. No. Ice Spirit denied. Then what does Big Brother mean by that? Shui Mo didn't understand. It was hard to guess what Big Brother was thinking. I want to live with Ice Phoenix, I want to be with it, Ice Spirit said. Big Brother, do you want to leave the Qilin clan? Shui Mo asked in shock. I'm not leaving. It's just that I won't be returning to the Qilin clan for now. I want to accompany Bingjia. Of course, if something happens to the Qilin clan, I'll still be the first to return. Ice Spirit explained. I see. Shui Mo understood and said, Big Brother, I know you feel guilty towards Bing Yao and I will support any decision you make, but I'm afraid the elders won't agree. They will agree. It's not like I'm going to leave the Qilin clan. I'm just not going back for the time being. After all, they have managed the Qilin clan very well without me for so many years. So, even without me, they will still act as usual and will not disappoint me. Ice Spirit said confidently. Chapter 2794, Rejection 1. Facing Ice Spirit's optimism. Shui Mo's mind was not as simple as he thought. He knew how important the Ice Spirit was to the Qilin clan. Yes, when the Ice Spirit was still asleep, the Qilin clan was still thriving under the management of Huoyu and the others. But that was because the Ice Spirit was their driving force. It was precisely because they held the thought of avenging their clan leader that the clansmen were unprecedentedly united. Now that their clan leader had awoken, the clansmen all thought that the important moment for the Qilin clan to regain its glory and reappear in front of the people of the divine world was coming. Who knew that their clan leader wanted to leave the Qilin clan? Even if it was only temporary, the clansmen would probably not be able to accept it in their hearts. He told Ice Soul about Gu Fei, but Ice Soul didn't care at all. Ice Soul even said, Didn't I say that? It's just that the Qilin clan is still the same as before, and it's still managed by Huoyu and the others. Of course, if Brother Emo wants to take over the Qilin clan, I'll welcome you. I can pass the position of clan leader to you now. Ice Spirit was very serious, but cold sweat appeared on Shui Mo's forehead. Was this the main point? Did he mean that? He was a little impressed by his big brother's powerful imagination. Brother, I don't want the position of clan leader, Shui Mo said with a sigh. I just want to remind you that the clansmen will not be happy about your departure. I know, I really want to give you the position of clan leader. I'm absolutely serious. You also know that I'll spend most of my time with Bing Yao, so I really don't want to take the position of the clan leader. The clan leader should be given to another capable Qilin. I want to step down. Plus, I don't think the people will mind my departure too much. After all, I'm not really going to leave the Qilin clan alone. If anything happens to the Qilin clan, I'll be the first to help. So Brother Emo, please help your big brother. Ice Spirit begged with a slightly flattering smile. Big brother, this isn't a matter of whether I agree or not. I've also said that you're too important to our clansmen. They've been waiting for you to wake up for tens of thousands of years. Now that you've finally woken up, no clansman will accept you leaving them behind. Shui Mo warned again. I'm not leaving. I'm just stepping back and not living in the Qilin clan anymore. This won't affect the Qilin clan much. Ice Spirit also questioned. Besides, you're not living in the Qilin race right now. Didn't the clan still let it go? Ice Spirit added. Hearing this, Shui Mo became even more depressed and couldn't help but mutter in his heart, Brother, how can our status be the same in the Qilin clan? You're much more important than me. Big brother, to tell you the truth, when I was staying at Lung Ruoxia's house, my clansmen kept urging me to return to the clan. In the end, they used the excuse of inviting Lung Ruoxia to the clan as a guest to trick me into returning too. They're all the same to me, let alone you, big brother. I can guarantee that once you leave the clan and live here, the treatment you receive will be even better than mine, Shui Mo said. Ice Spirit started to think after hearing what Shui Mo said. Thanks Brother Emo, if they really do that, you have to help me. Ice Spirit requested. Big brother, I also want to see you and Bing Jie reunite. Don't worry, as long as I can help, I will definitely help. However, you really don't want me to help you convince the clan to accept the fact that Bing Jie has a master? I think our clansmen should be able to understand. Shui Mo asked. He still hoped that his big brother could stay in the clan. After all, his big brother was the backbone of everyone. Brother Mo, I appreciate your kind intentions, but there's really no need to make things so difficult for the clansmen. Also, Bing Yao has been living outside for so many years, so I'm afraid it won't be able to adapt to the life in the clan. I don't want its life to change too much just because it has recognized me as its father. I've already let it down, so I don't want it to suffer any more grievances because of me. I hope Brother Mo can understand. Ice Spirit said sincerely. Shui Mo understood. His big brother was just afraid that some clansmen would look down on Bing Yao in private. In fact, he knew that even the Ice Phoenix felt uncomfortable for a moment after having a human master. However, he immediately felt relieved. After all, the Ice Phoenix's situation was different. It was already good enough that it could keep its life in that situation back then. Why would it care so much? In addition, he believed that the majority of the Qilin clan would understand this. However, even in a united clan, there would still be a small group of clansmen who weren't that understanding. Thus, he knew that his big brother living outside with Bing Jie was definitely the best choice for Bing Jie. However, in the hearts of the Qilin clan's clansmen, this was a disaster. However, Shui Mo knew that his big brother had made up his mind when he saw Ice Soul's serious expression. He was only telling him in private in case he was unprepared. Big brother, since you've already decided, I will support you. So don't worry if there are clansmen who don't understand, I will help you convince them. Shui Mo promised. Thank you, Brother Mo, but about the clan leader. Ice Soul wanted to give up the clan leader, but was interrupted by Shui Mo. Big brother, I'm not interested in being the clan leader. You know that I only like good food and formations. Now that I'm staying at this little girl's place, I already have good food and formations. I'm very satisfied with my current life. So, I really don't need to be the clan leader. Shui Mo quickly emphasized when he heard that his brother was still thinking about this. Alright then. However, if none of us return to the clan, I'm afraid the Grand Elder and the others will go crazy. Ice Spirit said helplessly. Big brother, you can't force me to return to the clan just because you want to be free and unfettered outside. This is really disloyal, so on this point, we have to help each other. Anyway, it's just as you said, we're not abandoning the Qilin clan, we're just not living in the clan. Shui Mo formed an alliance. You're right. Ice Spirit nodded. He had said the same thing before. Just like that, Ice Soul and Shui Mo finished their discussion and decided to stay with Lung Ruoxue. As for the clan, it would still be managed by Fire Yu and the Great Elder. However, they had not decided when to tell Hui Yu and the Great Elder about this. At this moment, they were on the same side. 2 days later, the banquet Lung Ruoxue had mentioned to celebrate Ice Soul, and his son's reunion was finally ready and officially started. After 2 days of meticulous preparation, Lung Ruoxue's side had racked their brains. This was also what she had requested. Who asked Bing Yao to be her friend and Bing Pa to be their ally. Chapter 2795, Rejection 2. The banquet mainly consisted of Bing Yi's favorite food. There were also some small programs that the beasties had prepared at the last minute. Of course, Lung Ruoxue didn't plan for the entire banquet to last for too long. Thus, the entire banquet would probably not last more than 3 hours. At first, when they heard that there was a celebration, Uncle Long and the others wanted to suggest drinking some wine. However, after the experience of getting drunk the last time, Lung Ruoxue was against everyone wanting to drink. Since she didn't agree naturally, no one dared to make such a request. However, since it was a banquet, Lung Ruoxue would naturally not let everyone not touch a single drop of wine. However, there was a limit to the amount of wine. To these people who could drink a lot, that amount was clearly not enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. However, Lung Ruoxue had already shown them mercy. Hence, Uncle Long and the rest were helpless. After the banquet officially started, the delicacies that Lung Ruoxue ordered the servants to prepare were too much for the Qilin clan's eyes. Were the beautiful and exquisite things on the table really food? Looking at the food that had been meticulously prepared, none of the Qilins could bear to eat it. It was truly too beautiful, and they really wanted to keep it as a memento. However, the aroma of this beautiful food was particularly alluring, so some Chilans couldn't help but secretly take a piece of the side dish to taste. After tasting it, a certain Chilan was shocked. It's really too delicious. Sop. Why did he feel a sense of satisfaction that he had never felt before? A certain Kiran, who was already so happy that he wanted to jump around after tasting the side dish, couldn't take it anymore, and was the first to eat. Seeing him like this, the other Chilans were originally looking down on his eating style. However, seeing that the food on the table was slowly decreasing, the Chilans couldn't bear it anymore. Even though Lung Ruoxia's food was not bad, it was the first time they had such exquisite food. Once they started eating, these Chilans couldn't control their mouths. Bing Pu, Shui Mo, and the first elder of the Chilan clan felt ashamed when they saw the Chilan clan's disgraceful manner. However, you can't blame the Chilan, right? Usually, the food prepared by Lung Ruoxia was already so delicious that people were unwilling to leave. Now, these Chilans were specially prepared and had not seen much of the world in terms of food. Naturally, they were easily tricked. This was also what Lung Ruoxia was happy to see. As the saying goes, one's mouth is short when eating others. Since he had eaten her food, he had to treat Bingyao better in the future. Lung Ruoxia's motive was very obvious. She had meticulously prepared these foods in order to bribe these Chilan. After all, these were the elites of the Chilan clan. They had the most authority in the clan. With them on Bingjie's side, he believed that the Chilan clan wouldn't dare to say anything about the fact that Bingjie had a human master. It had to be said that as Bingyao's friend, Lung Ruoxia had thought of everything for him. This was what she had decided to do for him, even after Bingyao had clearly expressed that she did not want to return to the clan. She had treated the food like cannonballs coated in sugar because she had accurately calculated the gluttonous nature of these Chilan. As such, she had naturally hit them in one shot. Therefore, in the eyes of Ice Spirit and the other two, the Chilan's embarrassing actions were exactly what she wanted. Lung Ruoxia looked at the Chilans who were stuffing themselves with food in satisfaction. She cleared her throat and said loudly, "You can eat, but don't rest your ears. Your chief has something to announce." After speaking, Lung Ruoxia gave Ice Soul a look. When the Chilan heard this, they all raised their heads in unison. However, they did not stop eating. Most of the Chilan's mouths were full, and even their hands were full of food. They were afraid that if they were a step slower, the delicious food in front of them would be gone. Lung Ruoxia was naturally satisfied with their reaction. Thanks. As for Ice Spirit, he helplessly looked at his embarrassing clansmen and sighed. "I'm sure you're all very curious about why there's a banquet today, right? Actually, this banquet is to celebrate my reunion with Bingjie and his son." Bing Pa didn't beat around the bush and directly revealed his and Bing Qi's identity. The reason why he didn't mention this in advance was to give these Chilans a surprise. However, it seemed that his words had frightened these Chilans too much. Because as soon as he finished speaking, all the Chilans, except the first elder, were stunned. They maintained their eating posture and froze. What should he do? Ice Spirit had no idea. If he had known that he would scare these clansmen, he would have told the great elder to reveal his relationship with Bing Yi. Now it was all good. The Chilan clansmen were all dumbfounded. What should he do next? He turned to Lung Ruoxia for help, but who knew that Lung Ruoxia would be so disloyal to him and give him a look that said, "Good luck to you." Instantly, Ice Soul became depressed. Then he looked at the first elder of the Chilan clan. Helplessly, the Chilan great elder could only lightly cough a few times, wanting to use this to wake up the petrified clansmen. His words were indeed effective. The Chilan clan members instantly came to their senses and looked at their clan leader in disbelief. After that, it was unknown who was the one who took the lead, but the Chilan clan members suddenly burst out with a thunderous roar. "Clan leader has found the little prince. That's great." They were celebrating. "We must celebrate this big event." All the Chilans were abnormally excited. This was absolutely great news to them. Seeing how excited they were, it was undeniable that their ice spirits were infected. He could feel that his clansmen were supportive of him finding Bingyao and acknowledging her. "Miss Lung, give us some wine. How can we do this without wine?" At this moment, an overly excited and bold Chilan requested of Lung Ruoxia. Upon hearing this, Long Shuzhong and the others couldn't help but shrink their necks to reduce their presence, because things like wine were absolutely taboo to Shuer now. As expected, after listening to the Qilin's words, Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly and pointed to a wine jar on the table that was only the size of an adult's fist. You want to drink? Isn't there one on the table? How can this be enough? Looking at the small and exquisite wine jar, and then glancing at the even smaller wine cup in front of him, the Qilin became depressed. Not enough. Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes as she asked. It's definitely not enough. The Qilin said very honestly. That's all I have. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. There was no way she could say it so naturally. A certain Kirin was obviously even more depressed. No more. How can you still say it so righteously? As the host, he should not have not prepared enough wine. With this thought in mind, a certain Qilin stood up from his seat with a face full of anger. His action immediately attracted everyone's attention. The great elder of the Qilin clan stared at the fool in front of him without blinking. He was ready to take him down as soon as this guy made a move. They could not allow him to get drunk and act like a maniac in Lung Ruoxue's territory. Otherwise, if that human girl were to fly into a rage, even the clan leader would not be able to save this foolish clan member. Chapter 2796, Rejection 3. With Huiyu as a warning, the great elder of the Qilin clan was afraid that his clansmen would start a conflict with Lung Ruoxue. Just when all the Qilin thought that this impulsive Qilin would make things difficult for Lung Ruoxue, a certain Qilin merely smiled and said, Since you don't have any more wine, I'll go buy some. Ugh. Upon hearing this, the Qilins were all speechless. Can you not be so useless? They had thought that there would be a big fight over alcohol. Who knew that the thunder was loud, but the rain was light? This is really disappointing. When he saw the Qilin's obviously disappointed expressions, a certain Qilin was extremely depressed. You bastard. Did he look like such an impulsive person? These bad guys who wished for the world to be in chaos. He would not let them succeed. This Qilin wasn't stupid. Of course, it knew that Lung Ruoxue couldn't be provoked. Hence, it had never thought of starting a conflict with Lung Ruoxue. It had stood up only to buy wine, but who knew that it would cause a misunderstanding? In reality, not only were the Qilin elites disappointed in him, even the Qilin Great Elder, who had intended to be the peacemaker, felt extremely displeased at the tactfulness of this clansman. This was not to say that he was looking forward to a conflict between his clansmen and Lung Ruoxue. It was just that after the Fire Yu incident caused them to be like Qilin with their tails between their legs in front of Lung Ruoxue, he still had a faint hope that a clansman who dared to go against Lung Ruoxue's evil forces would appear in the clan. Although this would bring trouble to the clan after the event, it had to be said that it would be very enjoyable. To put it bluntly, the sullen and contradictory Great Elder Qilin also had the characteristic of wishing for the world to be in chaos. Unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed this time. As for Lung Ruoxue, when she heard the words of a certain Qilin who was eager to drink in celebration, her smile became even more indifferent. She said, You want to buy wine? Sure, but you have to beat me first. With that, Lung Ruoxue stood up and even took on a battle stance. Fuck. Was this for real? When a certain Kirin saw this, he was speechless and didn't know what to say. However, when he saw Lung Ruoxue's serious expression, he deeply felt that she was not joking. Of course, Lung Ruoxue was not joking. Uncle Long and the others also covered their faces when they saw this. They knew that alcohol was Shuer's taboo, because Shuer had said the same thing to them yesterday. And of course, they couldn't fight with Shuer. If they forced this little girl into a corner and she revealed her life flame, they would all be helpless. Uncle Dragon looked at a certain Qilin with sympathy. He was looking forward to how the Qilin would respond. I don't fight with women. After a long silence, the depressed Qilin finally spoke. Beat me, and you can go buy wine. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. So what? If he won against a woman whose strength was below his, he would be laughed at by others. This was what humans said about winning without honor. This Qilin still had some moral integrity, but he had only treated Lung Ruoxue as an ordinary human woman. Therefore, he had never thought about whether he could defeat her or not. Furthermore, even though the wine was a great temptation to him, it was not enough for him to contribute his reputation. Hence, Lung Ruoxia's words caused him to feel conflicted and a faint sense of sorrow. "I'm not fighting, I won't drink anymore, okay?" A certain Kiran wanted to cry but had no tears. "Well, what the hell is this?" This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. Seeing that he had backed off, Lung Ruoxia's face was filled with disappointment. Then she cautiously reminded him, "You're the one who didn't drink it, don't regret it." "I won't regret it," a certain Kiran said in a low voice. Then he sat down quietly. At this moment, Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes turned to the other Chilans. She smiled and said, "Anyone else who wants to drink, go ahead and buy. But the condition is that you have to beat me." After she said that, her beautiful eyes swept across the Chilans' body, causing them to lower their heads immediately, afraid that Lung Ruoxia would target them. As the elites of their race, they were naturally not as impulsive as normal Chilans and could not control their own actions. In addition, they had heard some news about Lung Ruoxia from Bing Yun, so no one was willing to have any conflict with Lung Ruoxia. For a moment, the banquet hall fell silent. Thanks, all the Chilans were eating in silence, and none of them dared to speak. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, a cry of disbelief was heard. "What did you say, Chief?" The one who spoke was the Chilan First Elder. His voice immediately broke the silence in the room and attracted all the Chilans' attention. They all raised their heads and looked in their direction. Lung Ruoxia was also curious about what Ice Soul had said to the Chilan Grand Elder. Why did the old man look like he was in pain from being abandoned? For a moment, everyone's attention was drawn to the Ice Spirit. As for Ice Spirit, she was so depressed that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. He was so regretful. Why did he choose this time to reveal his thoughts of stepping down to the second line to the Great Elder? Originally, the two of them had a good chat in private. They didn't know why he suddenly revealed his future plans. The Great Elder was shocked, and the corresponding consequence was that today's matter was probably going to be exposed in advance. AI. He really didn't want to let his clansmen know of his thoughts when everyone was so happy. He didn't know if his clansmen could bear it. However, he probably couldn't care about whether his clansmen could bear it or not, because the first elder of the Chilan clan had already died in battle when he heard this terrible news. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. Then the Chilan elder kneeled on the ground and cried. He hugged Ice Spirit's leg and cried, "Clan leader, you can't do this. How could you abandon us?" Upon hearing this, all the Chilans panicked, and their expressions changed drastically. The clan leader was going to abandon them? What was the meaning of this? Did the clan leader not want them anymore? How could this be? One had to know that the tribe leader was the backbone of the Chilan clan. If the tribe leader abandoned the Chilan clan and left, what would they do? For many years, the great clan leader had always been their spiritual sustenance. Therefore, they could lose their lives, but they absolutely could not lose their clan leader. At the thought of this, all the Chilans knelt on the ground and started bawling. "Clan leader, you can't abandon us. We can't live without you." Lung Ruoxia looked at the chaotic scene before her, and turned to look at Bingpu in surprise. So Bingpu and the first elder of the Chilan clan were talking about leaving the Chilan clan? Was it for Bing Yao? "Quiet down, listen to your chief." Thinking of this possibility, Lung Ruoxia took the initiative to comfort the Chilans that were losing control. After giving Lung Ruoxia a grateful look, Ice Soul's gaze shifted to the rest of the clan. She said loudly, "You've misunderstood. I'm not abandoning you." Upon hearing this, the Chilans immediately held back their tears and listened attentively to the clan leader's words. When Lung Ruoxia saw the Chilans' ability to control their tears, she prostrated herself on the ground in admiration of them. This was also work. As a result, she had no choice but to treat these Chilan token eyes who were flexible. He wondered how long they had been practicing this move. How could it be so natural? Lung Ruoxia mumbled to herself out of curiosity. At this moment, Bingpu began to explain. "Listen to me, I'm not going to abandon you. I just want to step back and give the position of the clan leader to a young man. In the future, I won't ask about the trifles of the Chilan clan. After all, I'm a member of the Qilin clan. I won't just stand by and watch the Qilin clan fall into a difficult situation. So, you can all be at ease. How can I possibly abandon you all? Ice Spirit explained patiently, but the Qilin's disciples were too shocked to say anything. They couldn't understand why the clan leader would have such an idea. Chief, do you want the young prince to succeed the throne? After hearing this, well, you couldn't help but ask. Because he was a little far from the great elder and the clan leader, he didn't hear what the two of them had said. Bingjie won't inherit the chief position. My chosen successor is you. In fact, I should have officially passed the position of the clan chief to you tens of thousands of years ago, but you were still too young at that time, so I didn't feel at ease. However, after training for so many years, you've managed the Qilin clan very well, so I can be truly at ease now that I'm handing the clan over to you. I hope that our Qilin clan will be able to reach a higher level under the leadership of you and the Great Elder. Are you confident? Ice Spirit explained clearly as he was afraid that the Fire You would misunderstand. However, the Fire You could not be happy after hearing Ice Soul's words. He wasn't afraid of someone snatching his position. In his heart, he had always thought that the Qilin clan belonged to the clan leader, and that only the clan leader had the right to lead the Qilin clan. Now that the clan leader had cast his hands away, he had thought that it was for the little prince. Who knew that the clan leader actually wanted to pass the position of the clan leader to him? Could he refuse? Patriarch, I don't want to be the patriarch. In the hearts of all of us Qilin, you're the only patriarch of the Qilin clan. Of course, if you want the young prince to inherit your position, we have no objections. But I really can't. Huayu refused with a sincere face. Chapter 2797. Whoever's crying, feed it to the wolves. 1. These were also his heartfelt words. Huayu had been worshipping the chief since he was a child. He even idolized Ice Spirit. Therefore, he had always thought that he, as the acting chief, had to manage the Qilin clan well for the chief. When the chief woke up, he would return the Qilin clan to the chief. This idea had been his biggest motivation for many years, and he had indeed done that. However, he did not expect that the current chief would not want to manage the Qilin clan anymore. What should he do? If the patriarch wanted the little prince to succeed the throne, he could accept it out of love for the house. But now it was obvious that the patriarch wanted to officially pass the position to him. No, he didn't want to. At that moment, Fire Yuswell was unusually firm. Ice Soul did not expect Fire You to say that. Hence he was in a dilemma. I've already made up my mind. In the end, Ice Spirit could only say helplessly. Clan leader, why is this so? First Elder Qilin asked with a pained expression. First Elder, Huayu. And you guys, can you not be so stubborn? It's not like I'm going to leave the Qilin clan completely. I just want to spend more time with Bing Chan, so I don't plan to manage the Qilin clan's affairs anymore. Can't you all understand? Ice Spirit asked, pretending to be angry as she glanced at the Qilins. Clan leader, of course we understand you, and we're also happy that you've reunited with the little prince and his son, but this doesn't affect you from continuing to be our clan leader. There won't be any conflicts. The first elder of the Qilin clan couldn't help but remind him. Yeah, clan leader, there's no conflict. The other Qilins agreed. I'll tell you everything else later. Everyone eat first. Don't let down this little girl's good intentions. Seeing her clansmen like this, Ice Spirit could only put this matter aside for now. Otherwise, today's celebration banquet would probably become a meeting among their clansmen. Upon hearing the clan leader's words, the Qilin clan's members fell silent for a moment. They couldn't help but think to themselves. Could there be something else going on here? Why is it so complicated? However, since the clan leader had spoken, they were also afraid that Lung Ruoxua would feel that they had let her down. Hence, all of them remained silent and obediently ate their food. However, after knowing that the clan leader wanted to step down, no matter how delicious the food in front of them was, they felt like they were chewing on wax. They could not taste anything. Lung Ruoxua was at a loss for words when she saw how painfully they were eating. She could only cancel the small program that she had arranged earlier, and end the celebration party hastily. After that, Lung Ruoxue took the initiative to arrange a meeting room for them. If there was anything, they could settle it there. All the Qilins were quite satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's understanding. After giving her a grateful look, all the Qilins could not wait to enter the meeting room. Watching the backs of the Qilins, Uncle Long couldn't help but tease. Do you think the Qilins will kill themselves if they know that Senior Ice Soul wants to retreat? One had to know that this matter was rather unexpected and shocking to them, let alone to the Qilins who were involved. He also knew what Ice Spirit meant to the Qilin race, so it wasn't difficult to guess what kind of blow Ice Spirit's abdication would cause to the Qilin race. And the facts had also proven that the impact on the Qilins were indeed not small. So much so that during the second half of the banquet, the Qilins who were originally quite interested in the delicious food, all couldn't swallow anymore. However, everyone looked at Uncle Long with a strange expression as soon as he asked this question. It was as if they were very confused by his eagerness to try. After all, he dared to talk about the Qilin clan's affairs so openly. Was he trying to draw hatred? Thanks, who knew that Lung Ruoxue would answer Uncle Long's question with a straight face? It's not impossible. First, he would cry. Second, he would throw a tantrum. Third, he would hang himself. I think he will appear today. Lung Ruoxue's extremely serious tone made it clear to everyone that she was not joking. Instantly, everyone fell silent. Would it really be like this? Everyone was curious and stood outside the meeting room, hoping to get the latest information as soon as possible. As for their gossip, not only did Lung Ruoxue support them, she even planned to lead them to eavesdrop on them. After knowing Lung Ruoxue's plan, Uncle Long and the rest trembled. Was this really a good idea? Swear, isn't this a little bad? Dongfeng Yu asked uneasily. He had never done such a thing in his life. Although this did not mean that he was afraid of Ice Spirit, eavesdropping was not something he should do openly, and it was not in line with his usual behavior. What? Don't you want to know the result? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked calmly. The result. Of course they wanted to know, but this eavesdropping corner was not good. Dongfeng Yu and the others were in a dilemma. Looking at their expressions, Lung Ruoxue knew what these guys were struggling with. It was nothing more than a very strong curiosity, but due to morality, she did not want to do such a thing. Usually, Lung Ruoxue would only describe such a person with one word: hypocritical. But now, hypocrite. If you want to hear it, then go listen. What's the big deal? A voice suddenly rang out. He then said what Lung Ruoxue wanted to say, but did not. Of course, only Azure would dare to say such a thing. When she saw Uncle Long and the rest's depressed expressions, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh in her heart. It seemed that Song had to come forward. Azure's words were really powerful. Lung Ruoxue happily picked up Song and touched the soft fur on its body as a reward. However, Song, who used to like being touched by Lung Ruoxue, seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied with her. It said angrily, "Girl, you were quite hypocritical just now. You clearly wanted to say the same thing about them as I did, so why did you give them face? You can just say it directly." They were not outsiders, but Uncle Long and the others. One of them was her godfather. How could she directly say that they were hypocritical? In that case, wouldn't Godfather and Uncle Long be depressed to death? Lung Ruoxue had always treated them as her elders. Naturally, she would not do this. Unfortunately, Song, who had always done whatever he wanted, had no way to understand the complex emotions of humans. Everyone was depressed for a while, but in the end, they couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't that they liked to be scolded, but they felt that so many of them, including Shui, had been mercilessly scolded by Tsong. This experience was definitely extraordinary. After laughing at each other, everyone quickly calmed down and went to eavesdrop on Ice Soul's conversation as Tsong said. Just as Azure had said, why be so hypocritical? If you want to hear it, then listen. In any case, even if the Qilin clan found out, they wouldn't dare to truly fall out with them. After that, everyone felt even more at ease. Soon there were cries in the conference room. At first there was only one cry, but slowly, there were more and more cries. Some were wailing, and some were sobbing. Chapter 2798. Who's crying? Feed it to the wolves. 2. When Uncle Long and the others heard this, they looked at each other again. They were all confused. Why was she crying? Meanwhile, in the room, Ice Spirit was having a headache as she faced the crying Qilin. He had said everything he needed to say, including the fact that the Ice Phoenix had a human master, but who knew that after these clansmen heard it, they didn't give any advice and instead directly cried. What was the meaning of this? Why don't you guys just give me a straightforward answer? Crying can solve the problem? Gradually, Ice Spirit became impatient with the crying. In the past, he hated it when people cried, and now this crying made him even more upset. Stop crying. Do you think it's nice for a man to cry like a woman? Ice Spirit roared. His voice was so loud that all the Qilins were stunned. They couldn't help but stare at their clan leader with wide eyes. Sops. Is the clan leader angry? When the Qilin clan heard this, they wanted to cry again. However, when they saw that their clan leader seemed to be a little angry, they didn't dare to cry out loud. They could only cry silently and occasionally choke up. Seeing them like this, Ice Spirit was even more furious. At this time, a familiar voice of dissatisfaction came into the meeting room. Who said all women should cry? Are you discriminating against women? The one who spoke was naturally Lung Ruoxia. Then she pushed open the door of the meeting room and walked in. Behind her were Uncle Long and the others, who looked embarrassed. It was already wrong of them to eavesdrop on others. Now that they came in so brazenly, wasn't it obvious that they were trying to tell others that they were eavesdropping? But Schwer had already come in. If they continued to pretend that they didn't know anything, they would all look down on themselves. They lowered their heads and looked for a place to sit down. Uncle Long and the others didn't dare to look at the Qilin's expressions. In fact, they wished that these Qilin didn't show their existence, but that was obviously impossible. None of the Qilins had expected that an outsider would suddenly barge in when they were in the middle of a discussion. Although this outsider had provided them with a place to stay, it was clearly not the conduct of a person with moral integrity to enter someone else's meeting without permission. With this thought in mind, the Qilins started to look down on Lung Ruoxia and the others. However, facing Lung Ruoxia, the Qilins were helpless. Even if they looked down on her, they didn't dare to say it out loud in front of her. After all, this was her territory. Silently swallowing down the dissatisfaction in their hearts, the Qilins had no choice but to accept the other party's existence. They really did as Uncle Long and the others wished, directly treating them as invisible people. As for the culprit, Ice Spirit, who had caused Lung Ruoxia to barge in, he was currently in a state of deep depression and conflict. Looking at Lung Ruoxia, who did not realize that her actions were inappropriate, Ice Soul felt even more helpless. One had to know that in all his years of living, this was the first time he had seen someone so self-righteously eavesdropping on someone else's wall, even interrupting and barging in. This was too. Thanks anyway, Ice Spirit didn't know what to say. More importantly, the little girl seemed to be dissatisfied with him. He could not understand why. In reality, Lung Ruoxia was like this because she felt that Ice Spirit was taking too long to resolve this matter. She couldn't bear it anymore. Even though this was the Qilin clan's matter, and she shouldn't interfere, this was her territory. More importantly, she was already on the verge of going crazy from the Qilin's cries. Originally, when she heard the Qilin's cries, she simply returned to her own residence, thinking that out of sight, out of mind. Who knew that the crying spread too wide? Even if she hid in her room, she couldn't stop the crying from reaching her ears. In the end, in a fit of anger, she came back to the conference room in a rage. When she was outside, she heard what Ice Spirit said, so she responded and decided to join their meeting. Who cares if they agree or not? Quickly settling this matter is the way to go. If you want to waste time, go back to your Qilin race. After sitting down, Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes first swept over the silent and sobbing Qilin, then looked at Ice Soul. Finally, she said, "Whoever is crying, I'll throw him out to feed the wolves." To feed the wolves? Lung Ruoxia's threat made the Qilin clan speechless. What wolf in this world would dare to eat them? The Qilins were a little curious. Moreover, they weren't the only ones who were speechless. Even Uncle Long and the others felt that Schwer had been driven mad by these indecisive Qilin beasts. Otherwise, Why would she say such shocking words? Would any Qilin be afraid of such a threat? As expected, after hearing Lung Ruoxia's threat, one of the Qilin with a fiery temper did not mock her like the other Qilin. Instead, it pointed at Lung Ruoxia and raged. You want to feed us to the wolves? Why don't you come? I'd like to see what kind of wolf would dare to eat me. One could not blame this Qilin for being so confident. It was simply because the Qilin race had a transcendent status among the beast races in the divine realm. Even if they were sent to the mouth of a wolf, it was likely that the wolf would not dare to eat them. After listening to this Qilin's words, Lung Ruoxia sighed helplessly and placed Song on the ground. In the next moment, everyone heard a wolf's howl. Then, they watched as the snow-white kitten on the ground transformed into a mighty and majestic white wolf, standing in front of everyone with an awe-inspiring aura. Those deep and cold wolf eyes made everyone present tremble with fear. This was the wolf that Lung Ruoxia wanted to feed them to? Isn't this a cat? Instantly, the Qilins were all speechless and didn't know what to say. Can you not play like this? It was clearly a cat. Even if it had turned into a wolf, it was not a real wolf. It was even more impossible for him to eat them. For a moment, the Qilins didn't know how to react. This included the fiery Qilin that was quarreling with Lung Ruoxia. At this moment, everyone was in a daze. The mouths of Uncle Long and the others twitched. This wolf was Azure. No wonder he dared to eat the Kirin. In the entire God world, only Tsong would have such courage. When everyone thought of this, they looked at Lung Ruoxia with a thoughtful gaze. That last Shuer was really getting worse and worse. She actually turned Song Huan into a wolf. Great, the Qilins were all dumbfounded, right? The Qilins were dumbfounded, while Azure, who had scared them, was a little depressed. It didn't think that Nyo would actually give it such a task, and even make it turn into a wolf. In fact, even if it didn't turn into a wolf, it could still eat the Qilin if it wanted to. With a slightly malicious thought, Song's gaze swept across the Qilin's body a few times, and finally locked onto the bird that stood out. In an instant, Song's claw swiped towards the Qilin that was trying to bully Lung Ruoxia. The unlucky Qilin didn't even have the time to resist before it was smacked to the ground by Song's huge claw. At this moment, the Qilin was in human form. After being slapped down, it fell to the ground in an extremely indecent posture. Then Tsong sat it on its butt. The unlucky Qilin only struggled a few times before it fainted. Chapter 2799. Whoever's crying, feed it to the wolves. 3. He didn't know if it was because Tsong had used too much strength or because he was too angry, but in short, his tragic experience made Uncle Long and the others feel sympathy. Following that, all the Qilins looked at the scene in front of them in horror. How could this be? Was the wolf that the kitten had turned into so powerful? The Qilins were all puzzled. Regarding Blue's identity, other than the Qilin clan leader, almost no one knew. Hence, when faced with Blue's power, the Qilin clan members who had never placed Blue in their eyes and even treated it as Lung Ruoxia's little pet, were all petrified. Azure's formidable strength had dealt a huge blow to their strong and confident hearts as Qilin-s, causing them to become uncertain. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Ice Spirit sighed and pleaded. Senior Tsong, I hope you can be magnanimous and let my clansman go. Let him go? Those who bully my girl will all die. Azure said with an undeniable expression. Not only was Ice Spirit speechless, even Lung Ruoxia's face turned red. However, Song was trying to protect her, so Lung Ruoxia naturally wouldn't step out to clarify that the Qilin didn't bully her. Since Azure had decided, that unlucky Qilin had been bullied. Lung Ruoxia thought to herself as she enjoyed Song's protection. She even ignored the gaze that Ice Soul threw at her, asking her to speak up for her. When Ice Spirit saw that Lung Ruoxia was ignoring him, he was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Senior Tsong. Ice Spirit opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Based on his understanding of Tsong, Song was not an easy person to get along with. Now, it was clear that Song would not give him any face. Therefore, he did not know what to do. This time, after finally confirming that their chief had called the wolf senior, the Qilins were even more frightened. Oh my god! The clan leader actually called him senior? This was truly unbelievable. One had to know that their clan head's seniority in the divine realm was not low. And to be able to be called senior by him, what level of old goo did they have to know? Immediately, Azure's identity became the focus of all the Chelan's speculations. However, no matter how they racked their brains, they couldn't figure out who Azure was. But against the powerful Azure, the Chelans were all on high alert. With the previous example, they didn't dare to take the initiative to provoke this wolf. They already believed that this wolf could definitely devour them. Seeing the Kirin become obedient, Azure was very satisfied. Then it turned to Lung Ruoxue and asked, "Girl, what should we do with this Chelan? Do you need me to swallow it?" When Song said this, he deliberately made an eager expression, which made all the Chelans depressed. However, they didn't dare to say anything and could only timidly lower their heads, trying to reduce their presence. "I think you can wake him up and see what his attitude is before making a decision." After hearing Song's words, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Her words made Ice Spirit, who had been on tenterhooks, heave a sigh of relief. He was so afraid that Lung Ruoxue would say, "You can swallow it," in a fit of anger. However, after heaving a sigh of relief, he was conflicted again. Because the truth was clear, Song listened to Lung Ruoxue, and Lung Ruoxue ignored his pleading gaze, which made him very worried. That little girl was not on good terms with him. With this thought in mind, Bing Pio's resentful gaze followed Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue did not even spare him a glance. At this time, the unlucky Chelan was also awakened by Tsong, who was very obedient to Lung Ruoxue. Azure's actions weren't gentle at all, but rather rough. This was because the Chelan was awakened by Azure's slaps. After waking up, the unlucky Chelan was momentarily dazed. However, he immediately felt the weight on his body, which made him extremely uncomfortable. He moved a little, but his body weight was still as steady as Mount Tai. At this moment, the unlucky Chelan raised its head and struggled to look at the heavy object on its body. You get up," the unlucky Chelan said weakly. He felt pain all over his body, which made him very uncomfortable. "Humph. If I get up just because you want me to, how embarrassing would that be?" Hearing this, Song said coldly, "Woo. Then what do you want?" The unlucky Kirin, who couldn't break free, asked with tears in his eyes. "Didn't you want to see what kind of wolves would dare to eat you? How about I let you take a look?" Azure said indifferently, deliberately opening his mouth. An unlucky Kirin saw this and shivered before continuing to sob. "No, don't. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said such things. Can you be magnanimous and forgive me?" He was really scared. The wolf sitting on him was obviously stronger than him. He couldn't handle it. More importantly, he wasn't stupid. Seeing that his clansmen didn't plead on his behalf, he knew that no one could do anything about this wolf. Since that was the case, it would be fine if he gave in. Thanks Senior Tsong, he already knows his mistake. Please forgive him. Ice Spirit said. Wu clan leader, help. The unlucky Chelan screamed silently in his heart. He couldn't help but think to himself, the clan leader is still the best. A child with a patriarch was a treasure. However, why did the chief call this wolf senior? He was unconscious before, so he didn't know that Ice Spirit had already pleaded for him. The other Chelans didn't say anything because they couldn't do anything. After all, the clan leader called them seniors, so they didn't have the right to speak. More importantly, even if they did plead for mercy, they were afraid that the other party would directly ignore them. Who asked them to not have such a heavy weight? The word weight was extremely important no matter when and where. They didn't have that kind of status, so they naturally didn't have the right to speak with the high-end big shots. It's not impossible for me to forgive him, but let him make his stance clear first. Song said directly. Hearing Jin's statement, the unlucky Chelan was stunned. He thought to himself, didn't he already state that he was wrong? Why did he still have to make his stand? Seeing the question marks on the unlucky Kirin's face, Azure explained. I'm asking you to state whether you agree to let your family head step down. You bastard. These people would take too much time to do things, so Azure decided to use a quick plan. Of course, this was also the reason why Lung Ruoxue had it act. The unlucky Kiran didn't expect that Azure wanted him to say this, and immediately felt conflicted. This matter. Was it important whether he agreed or not? Hurry up and tell me. If I'm satisfied, I'll let you go. Seeing that the Kiran didn't speak for a long time, Blue impatiently urged. Let it go only after it's satisfied? Then what kind of answer would satisfy it? Thinking of this, the unlucky Cheelin was even more conflicted. At this moment he really didn't know if he should agree or not, so he could only probe. That? I want to know, is my stance very important? It's not important, Song said coldly and then added. But you have to say it. What's the difference between this and not saying? The unlucky Cheelin silently cursed, then made up his mind and said, I agree to the clan leader's retreat. The clan leader has worked hard for the clan for many years. It's time for you to rest. After thinking for a long time, the unlucky Cheelin felt that this should be what the threatening senior wolf wanted to hear the most. After all, they had been discussing this matter before, and they were all against it at that time. It was only after that Lung Ruashua barged in, and he became the first unlucky person to bear the brunt of it. Sure enough, after he finished speaking, Azure patted the unlucky Cheelin's head with its huge claws in satisfaction and said, Since you're so considerate of your clan leader, I won't make things difficult for you anymore. You can get up now. After saying that, Azure stood up from a certain unlucky Kiran. After being pardoned, the unlucky Cheelin was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes, and he even showed an expression of I knew it. However, his expression of having guessed Song's thoughts caused almost all the Cheelin present to glare at him. Traitor! The traitor of the Cheelin race. The angry Cheelin didn't have a good expression towards the unlucky Cheelin who betrayed them. Just think about it, they were still very sympathetic towards him, but now, each of them wanted to rush forward and bite him ruthlessly. The unlucky Cheelin also felt the countless angry gazes on his body, which made him involuntarily shrink back behind Azure. Woo. He didn't want to do this either. He was forced to do so. But now, it was clear that no one would understand his difficulties. However, Azure was quite interested in the Cheelin's interaction and said with a smirk, What, you don't agree with his idea? Oh. Whoever disapproves can stand out now, or you won't have the chance later. What did that mean? All the Cheelins were puzzled. Now it's your turn to declare your position. Fuck. What did it have to do with them? They didn't even argue with Lung Ruashua. For a moment, Song's words aroused the anger of the crowd. However, due to Song's unknown identity as a senior, the Cheelins were very smart and didn't reveal it immediately. However, their eyes were so angry that they were spitting fire, revealing the thoughts in their hearts. Song didn't care and continued. Those who agree to let your family patriarch step down, stand behind me. Those who don't, I'll beat you up until you agree. So don't hesitate, just say it. After saying that, Azure rubbed his fists and made his battle preparations. At this moment, a certain unlucky Cheelin suddenly felt balanced in his heart, and didn't feel that he was very unlucky. His clansmen, on the other hand, were deeply depressed. This was a blatant threat. Did he want to use violence to force them to agree? At this moment, even Ice Soul felt that Song's method was simple and crude, but it was also the most effective and direct method. Chapter 2800. The Woman Who Orders People Around 1. All of a sudden, Ice Spirit was looking forward to it. Of course, he would never use such a method to force the Cheelin. However, he couldn't stop Azure's thoughts. Besides, Song was trying to help him. Ice Spirit thought it was better for him to keep quiet. He knew that if Song wanted to help him, he wouldn't really hurt the Cheelin. At most, he would just cause them some physical pain. It was nothing to the Cheelin's tough skin. He would just treat it as a way to train their will. With that thought in mind, Ice Soul shamelessly and calmly sat on the sidelines. Don't blame him for not doing anything. He could only use this method to force the stubborn Cheelins to agree. Therefore, from a certain perspective, he was very grateful and helped them. More importantly, Ice Spirit knew that he only helped because of Shui. Otherwise, he wouldn't know who he was. As such, he was even more grateful to Tsang. The intelligent Ice Spirit appreciated Azure's kindness, But the Qilins that had suddenly turned from a spectator into the main character were not so comfortable in their hearts. How detestable. It was really too detestable. They had clearly not done anything, nor had they made any noise at Lung Ruoxue, so what right did they have to suddenly point the cannons at them? They were innocent, okay? Moreover, whether the Qilin clan agreed to the patriarch's retreat to the second line was an internal matter of the Qilin clan. How could a cat that could turn into a wolf have the right to point fingers? So what if he can turn into a wolf? They felt extremely indignant, especially when they saw Tsong's expression that was waiting to beat them up. They felt deeply depressed. However, the Qilins were smart enough not to argue with each other. Instead, they all looked at Huayu and the Qilin Great Elder expectantly. These two could be said to be the absolute main force against the clan leader's retreat to the second line. It was better for them to step forward than for a small Qilin like him to step up. As the Qilin thought of this, their eyes became more and more fiery. On the other hand, Huayu and the first elder of the Qilin clan were deeply depressed. The two of them had lived for so long, but they were not stupid. For the clan leader to address him as senior, he was definitely an old and ancient figure who had not appeared in the world. He was not someone that they, the small-limbed Qilin, could contend with. Now he had the attitude of wanting to interfere in the Qilin's family matters, and he didn't want it to meddle in other people's business. This was purely to attract hatred. Not to mention that their words were useless to the other party. Even the clan leader's words would not work. Moreover, looking at the clan leader's silent appearance, it was obvious that he would not interfere. This made the two old Qilins even more conflicted. Clan leader, how can you just stand by and do nothing? The two of them were speechless and extremely worried. After a moment of thought, the two of them pulled their thoughts back to Tsong. It was impossible to not let them manage. They would manage it by force, but if they agreed to let them interfere with the internal affairs of the Qilin clan, they would feel very unbalanced in their hearts. For a moment, the two Qilins' hearts were in a mess. No matter how they thought about it, the two of them didn't feel good. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, who could see through their internal conflict, smiled and said, "Everyone, the Qilin clan's patriarch's retreat has nothing to do with me, so I shouldn't have asked about it. However, you've made too many complicated decisions. You've even threatened me with crying, making a scene, and hanging yourself. I can't just not ask about this. I don't want any lives to be lost here. So, I hope you can understand my feelings. Thanks, understand your head." They wouldn't really seek death. After listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, the Qilin silently cursed. Lung Ruoxue naturally did not care about how they felt. After a pause, she continued, "As the master of Demon City, how can I watch as a beastie seeks death in my home? Of course, if you don't want me to interfere, then please leave and return to your own territory. My hands definitely won't stretch that far, so please rest assured. Besides, it's normal for the old to replace the new in any family or organization. Why is it that only your Qilin clan is so conflicted when you encounter such a thing? Do you want to rely on Senior Ice Soul's protection forever and not make any progress? I don't think so. When Senior Ice Soul was unconscious for tens of thousands of years, the Qilin clan didn't collapse without him. On the contrary, the Qilin race was unusually united. So now, Senior Ice Soul still wants to continue the normal operations of the Qilin clan while he was unconscious. Why are you all so desperate as if you're about to be abandoned? Isn't this too pretentious? You have to know that the world will still spin without anyone, even the Qilin race. The Qilin clan didn't have Senior Ice Soul as the clan leader, but there would be another outstanding clan leader. Isn't this a good opportunity for you all to show off your abilities? Besides, it's not like Senior Ice Soul doesn't care about the Qilin clan at all. He also said that if something happens to the Qilin clan, he will still support you. Isn't that enough?" Lung Ruoxue went on, not caring about how ugly the Qilin's expression was. After she was done, she turned her beautiful eyes to Huayu, who was on the verge of tears. "Fire you, although you're sometimes stupid, I don't think you'll grow up to be like Senior Ice Soul, the great Qilin clan leader that everyone in the divinity respects. However, this has nothing to do with me. I don't care if you want to be the clan leader or not. But in my family, you only have two choices. You can either reject or accept. Lung Ruoxia's attitude was unyielding. I won't accept it. Huoyu's face turned red with anger when he heard this. Very good. I like your straightforward attitude. Lung Ruoxia complimented it, then turned to look at Azure and said, Song, the fire you has already expressed its attitude. Now it's your turn. No problem. Song smiled as he walked closer to the fire you. What do you want to do? Huoyu looked at the huge snow-white wolf that was slowly approaching. His body, which was trembling nonstop due to Lung Ruoxia's anger, shook even more violently. This was really going too far. Huoyu was extremely indignant. He was so angry that he didn't know how to react. When Song heard Huoyu's words, his smile became even more evil. I just want to beat you up until you accept it. Even if you beat me to death, I won't accept it. Huoyu suddenly said firmly. Oh really? I hope you have a backbone as you think. Azure said with anticipation. Then he took out a handful of colorful pills and used his claws to pry open Huoyu's mouth, throwing the pills in his claws in. The elixir melted in his mouth, and Huoyu didn't even have time to spit it out. The liquid elixir flowed down his throat and into his stomach. Coughing violently, Huoyu glared at Song and said, Damn it, what did you make me eat? Chapter 2801. The woman who orders people around too. Pills. Don't tell me you don't know him. Song laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately grabbed Huoyu in front of him with his claws and punched him in the face. At this moment, Fire Yu was also in a human form, so his Bodis defense was naturally not as good as his original body. Therefore, half of his face swelled up in just a short while. The Fire Yu was furious, but instead of letting out a cry of pain, it laughed loudly. What was even more exaggerated was that the more he laughed, the more excited he became. He laughed so hard that he couldn't even straighten his back. This scene made all the Chilin's forehead hang black lines. What was going on? They didn't think that the acting clan leader had a masochist physique, but this was the first time they had seen someone laughing so happily after being beaten. This was not normal. This was definitely not normal. The smarter Chilin had already guessed that it might be those medicinal pills. At this moment, Song's fist aimed at Huoyu again. In just a short while, Huoyu was beaten up so badly that he was no longer human. There were no parts of his body that were intact. The pain in his body had already made him cry, but he was still laughing loudly while he was crying. Upon seeing this, the Chilins that were present didn't know what to say. When Lung Ruoxia saw that the time was right, she gave Song a look to make him stop. Then Lung Ruoxia asked Huoyu with concern. Does it hurt? No. Haha. Huoyu was still very unyielding. He wanted to say that it didn't hurt, but he only said one word before he laughed wildly again. You have a backbone. Lung Ruoxia laughed evilly. Then, Azure continued to beat him up. However, in addition to the maniacal laughter, the Fire Yu felt pain and itchiness all over its body. In the end, it couldn't stand the itchiness and simply rolled on the ground. As a result, Song couldn't attack. Azure was also a little tired. Then, he sat in the empty seat next to the Chilin Great Elder. He looked at Huoyu, who was rolling on the ground, out of the corner of his eye, while he tried to bond with the Chilin Great Elder. Song didn't say anything, he just stared at the Chilin Elder. This made the Elder's heart tremble, because he really couldn't figure out what this person was trying to do. Should he also beat him up and embarrass him? Unfortunately, the Chilin Great Elder was wrong. At this moment, Song only glanced at him casually and didn't plan to deal with him. After feeling that the mental pressure on the Great Elder of the Chilin clan was enough, Azure's cold and gloomy gaze turned to the other Chilin's bodies. Instantly, the Chilins that seemed to have been stared at by a demon couldn't help but shiver. Are you guys done choosing? Azure asked indifferently, intentionally revealing his sharp claws. All the Chilins looked at each other. No one was willing to be the one to stand out. In the end, Song was helpless and could only do it himself. After pulling out a Chilin, Azure directly waved his fist, but before he could hit the Chilin, the other party was so scared that he cried bitterly. I'm done. Thanks, Sob. Let him go. He was not as thick-skinned as the acting clan leader. Speak. Song's small head raised as he softly spat out a word. I agree. The Kirin, who was forced to stand out, said with a choked voice. Agree to what? Make it clear. Azure wasn't satisfied with the other's short reply. I agree with the patriarch to step down to the second line. The Qilin quickly said. Azure was satisfied and used his sharp claws to pat the other's face, praising. Very good. You are a loyal Qilin. Your clan leader has worked hard for so many years. It is time for him to take a good rest. Don't you think so? Right. Right. The chief is really too tired. The Qilin continued to follow Azure's words, clearly quite tactful. Azure was very pleased with the other party's quick-witted attitude. Then he pointed at the place where the unlucky Qilin was standing, indicating for him to go over. With this special pardon, the Qilin heaved a sigh of relief and ran over. The two brothers even shook their claws in tacit understanding. Now they had a little companion. They were not fighting alone, even though their surrender was looked down upon by quite a number of the Qilins. But when they thought about Azure's strength, the two Qilins felt that it was all worth it. At the same time, they believed that more and more of their friends would join their big family that was in favor of their tribe leader stepping down. In fact, even though they were forced to agree to the clan leader's retreat, the two Qilins became calmer after saying this. Since this was the general trend, what difference did it make to agree earlier or later? Moreover, after they agreed, their perspective on the matter would naturally be different. They deeply agreed with Song's words. All these years, the clan leader had worked too hard. It wasn't easy to find the little prince, but the little prince had lived like that. With such an awkward identity, it was indeed not easy to return to the clan and socialize. After thinking about it this way, they no longer felt like they had betrayed the Qilin race. They were doing this for the good of their clan leader, and wanted their clan leader to live a happy life. And as more and more Qilin joined their side, they felt even more certain that their choice was right. In the end, after Tsong's efforts, all the Qilins, except for the first elder and Huoyu, agreed to this. However, the two hardest to deal with gave Azure a headache. Especially Huoyu, even though he was being tortured by him, he still didn't let go. At this moment, Songdu could not help but admire Huoyu Li. No wonder Ice Spirit wanted him to be the patriarch of the Qilin clan. It seemed that this guy wasn't without any redeeming qualities. At the very least, he wasn't being threatened at the moment. As for the first elder of the Qilin clan, his stubbornness might not be inferior to the Firyu. Song was at a loss. Using violence to deal with these two wouldn't work. Although he had yet to attack the Qilin Great Elder with his claws, Azure could tell that the old fellow was even more difficult to deal with than Firyu. After discussing with Lung Ruoxue privately, Song decided to stop. After doing so much for Ice Spirit, it was natural to leave the two most difficult things for him. Of course, it was Lung Ruoxue who handed the two of them over to Ice Spirit. Song didn't want the other side to think that they retreated, because they couldn't handle it. After all, it definitely had more violent means than before. Mainly, it couldn't be used casually, or else the two Qilins would lose their lives. Just like that, under Lung Ruoxue and Song's forceful attacks, Ice Soul didn't have to do anything, and was able to deal with more than half of the Qilins. The two most difficult to deal with were also taken away by Ice Soul. Before he left, Ice Spirit did not forget to ask Lung Ruoxue for the antidote. Otherwise, the Firyu would. The other Qilins didn't dare to stay any longer as they watched the clan leader take the acting clan leader and the Great Elder away. They quickly left the meeting room, as if they were running for their lives. Chapter 2802. The Woman Who Orders People Around 3. For the next few days, Ice Soul and the Qilin did not appear. When they did, Ice Soul's face was full of joy. Although Firyu and the first elder of the Qilin clan still had bitter expressions, Lung Ruoxue could guess that the matter had been resolved. Otherwise, Ice Soul would not be smiling so happily. However, when Lung Ruoxue asked about how the matter was resolved, Bingpe remained silent. He only said that it was all due to Bing Yao's efforts that the matter was resolved smoothly. Lung Ruoxue was even more surprised when she heard this. However, out of respect for Bing Yi, she naturally wouldn't probe further if the other party didn't take the initiative to say anything. After that, Ice Spirit expressed her gratitude to Lung Ruoxue for being so nosy. She then invited the group to the Qilin clan to attend the Fire Yu's coronation ceremony. Lung Ruoxue accepted it gladly. When Huoyu saw her, his face would occasionally reveal hidden bitterness and anger, but she didn't take it seriously. After making some arrangements, Lung Ruoxue brought Uncle Long, godfather, and the rest to the Qilin clan with Bingpa. Their goal was, of course, the Fire Yu's coronation ceremony. However, before that, Ice Spirit and the others had to inform their clansmen. Fortunately, only the elders and elites of the Qilin clan had agreed for Ice Spirit to step down, so the ordinary Qilin clansmen didn't dare to object. After taking care of all the Qilins, Ice Soul announced the matter to the entire divinity. Then the day of the coronation officially arrived. Lung Ruoxue and the others were the only representatives invited to the ceremony, so their status in the firmament was naturally high. The ceremony for the Qilin clan leader's inauguration was actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it was a handover of power. As the leader of the Qilin clan, Ice Soul had given the token to Fire Yu. From then on, Fire Yu was the true leader of the Qilin clan. However, Huoyu, who had accepted all of this, still did not have a smile on his face. Seeing him like this, Lung Ruoxue knew that he was still a little unwilling. However, she believed that with time, the Fire Yu would finally accept all of this, and he had no choice but to accept it. The coronation ceremony was short but grand. When everything was settled, Lung Ruoxue and the rest took a short rest before returning to Demon City. Of course Bingpe, Shui Mo, and Fengyi also went back with them. However, they had just reached home when Bingyun arrived with dozens of clansmen. In Bingyun's words, these clansmen were sent by the clan leader to take care of Bingpe, Shui Mo, and the little prince. Lung Ruoxue, please allow them to stay. Meanwhile, the Kirin army that had arrived were only ordinary Kirin army. The Kirin army that had visited Demon City before would never dare to return. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she readily agreed to Bingyun's request and allowed these Qilins to stay. After settling the matters of the Qilin clan, Lung Ruoxue made up her mind to go into closed-door cultivation. This time, she decided to go into seclusion. Unless she completed the heaven-defying incantation, she would not come out. However, before this idea could be realized, another uninvited guest arrived. The uninvited guest this time was brought by Miao Jie's fierce wife. Initially, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to bother with him. However, considering that Miao Jie was one of her own, so was his wife. Hence, she decided to give him face and was prepared to meet him. Knowing that the other party was currently in the living room, Lung Ruoxue immediately headed there. Who knew that just as she walked to the door of the living room, she heard a woman's sharp and dissatisfied voice coming from inside. "Where's Lung Ruoxue? Why haven't you come out to see us?" Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but frown. One had to know that in the entire divine realm, there was probably no one who dared to be so presumptuous in her territory. Could it be that this unknown woman thought that she could be compared to Wu Yan? Of course, Wu Yan would not say such words as she did. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue was no longer in a hurry to enter. At this time, Uncle Long and Master Ning, who were accompanying the woman in the living room, were obviously very dissatisfied when they heard the woman's words. However, as top powerhouses, they naturally would not argue with a woman. Therefore, they turned their eyes to the middle-aged man sitting next to the woman. Unfortunately, the middle-aged man didn't seem to hear the woman's words, nor did he see the dissatisfaction in the eyes of Uncle Long and Master Ning. Instead, he raised the teacup in his hand and savored it carefully as if no one was around. Thanks seeing this, Uncle Long and Master Ning understood everything. Why did these two people come here to find trouble? They were not afraid of anything, but the least afraid of someone coming to pick a fight with them. It just so happened that they had been idle recently, so the two of them were happy to play with these two. With this thought in mind, Uncle Long and Master Ning were no longer angry at the woman's rudeness. However, as someone who had come to visit with them, Madame Miao's heart was filled with anger. If it wasn't for the inappropriate occasion, she would have exploded. At this moment, she was extremely regretful of bringing these two people to Demon City. Now that Lung Ruoxue, a woman who could not tolerate any mishaps, knew about this, she would definitely make things difficult for her man. At the same time, She also couldn't understand why those old gu would make such an arrangement. Of all the people they could have sent, why did they send two pieces of trash who were not successful and only good at causing trouble? Wasn't this a bad thing? Madame Miao was filled with regret, but at the same time, she was glad that Lung Ruoxue wasn't here. Otherwise, the situation would have been out of control. But could he clean it up now? Madame Miao glanced at the calm and composed Uncle Long and Master Ning. Seeing that these two important figures were acting as if nothing had happened, her heart began to feel uneasy for no reason. It was reasonable to say that with Uncle Long and Master Ning's status, they shouldn't tolerate the deliberate provocation of two people who were not as strong as them. However, he had endured it. Such an unusual reaction made her heart feel uneasy. Perhaps it was a serious mistake for her to come here today. And bringing these two people along was an even bigger mistake. At this moment, Madame Miao really wanted to escape by peeing, but she gave up on that thought. I can't hide from what's coming. She was already mentally prepared to be blamed by Lung Ruoxue. With such a thought in mind, she couldn't be bothered to stop these two idiots from doing anything. If they wanted to die, who could they blame? More importantly, Madame Miao didn't think that she would be able to stop the other party. So after Madame Miao gave Uncle Long and Master Ning an apologetic look, she obediently tasted the delicious desserts on the table. Look at the food she made, it was really exquisite, beautiful, and delicious. Madame Miao gobbled down the desserts one by one, and soon her mouth was full. In her hands, there were even two small pieces of desserts, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch them away. The young lady who had previously complained about Lung Ruoxue's lack of haste in coming to see them, upon seeing Madame Miao's reaction, was filled with disdain. She had never been on the stage before, so what if she had never eaten anything in her life? Was there a need to wolf down the food without caring about his image? She had really lost all her face. The young woman was full of hatred. She couldn't understand how this stupid and ugly man could marry the president of the mission headquarters. What was even more inconceivable was that the president still loved this fool so much and listened to his every word. It was really too incomprehensible. Thinking of this, the young woman's eyes suddenly burst with hatred, and she wanted to cut the fool in front of her into pieces. It was so unfair. What right did this ugly woman have to marry such a powerful man? And a beauty like her could only stay with a good-for-nothing? Wasn't it all because the other party had a powerful ancestor? The more the young woman thought about it, the more her heart felt unbalanced. She knew that she could not do anything to Madame Miao, so she could only vent her anger on outsiders. As for the outsiders in her eyes, she was referring to Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue was not present at the moment, so the outsiders in front of her could only be Uncle Long and Master Ning. However, Master Ning was the head of the 8 great divine domains of the divine world, the old ancestor of the Ning family. He was definitely not someone she could afford to offend. As such, Uncle Long, whom she was not familiar with and did not think to be very famous, naturally became her primary target. Then she pointed at Uncle Long with her slender finger and said in a commanding tone, "You quickly go and find Lung Ruoxue for me. I want to question her. Is this how she treats her guests?" Hearing this, Uncle Long was stunned. He pointed at himself speechlessly. Did this woman think he was a pushover? She actually ordered him around and even wanted to question Shui-er? She really wanted to know where she got her guts from. And who gave her such courage? "It's you. I order you to quickly call Lung Ruoxue over." This is outrageous. She actually made me wait for her here for so long. Don't you know that my time is precious? Seeing Uncle Long's slow reaction, the young woman's dissatisfaction intensified. "I really didn't know that your time was so precious. However, what does this have to do with us?" Uncle Long was so angry that he laughed. "How can it not be related to you? We've come to your place. Shouldn't you treat us well?" The young woman said matter-of-factly, "We've been treating you well. Look, all the good tea and snacks have been served, so what are you still dissatisfied about?" Uncle Long sighed and said helplessly, Who wants your tea and snacks? The person we want to see is Lung Ruoxue, but she hasn't come out after so long. She's clearly not giving us any face. Not only that, But you also sent 2 people with no status to accompany us. Could it be that this is how your demon city treats its guests? The young woman said angrily after hearing what Uncle Long said. Chapter 2803. We're here to take you in. 1. 2 people with no status? Uncle Long and Master Ning looked at each other and saw a trace of doubt in each other's eyes. The so-called naked people this young woman mentioned. Were they the 2 of them? If it really was the 2 of them, then how did this woman determine that she didn't have any identity? This woman was not clear about Uncle Long's background, so it was more acceptable to say that he had no status. After all, for tens of thousands of years, Uncle Long could be said to have rarely moved around in the divine world, so it was normal for the younger generation to not know him. However, he had been active in the divine realm for tens of thousands of years. His face could be said to be known by almost everyone in the divine realm. Thus, he really could not understand why this woman had the right to say such things about him. From what he could see, this woman's strength was only at the level of a divine king. A divine king dared to say that a reverent god had no status? Master Ning really wanted to roar. May I ask who you are? Show it to scare me? It could be said that from the moment these 3 people entered the living room, other than the woman who called herself Madame Miao giving a simple self-introduction, the 2 people in front of them didn't even introduce themselves. Madame Miao also didn't explain their identities. And these 2 people, ever since they entered their territory, had a cool, overbearing, arrogant, and insufferably arrogant expression. However, out of courtesy, Uncle Long and Master Ning did not raise any doubts about their attitudes. Instead, they were still very polite. After all, it was Madame Miao who brought them here, so they had to give some face to Madame Miao, who was considered half a family member. However, the other party had already bullied them. If the 2 of them allowed the situation to develop as it pleased, they would become the laughingstock of Demon City before the next day. Thinking of this, Uncle Long and Master Ning put away their kind expressions and released their pressure. Suddenly, the young woman and the middle-aged man felt a great pressure, and their faces turned pale. Then Master Ning smiled and asked, "Little girl, who are you referring to when you said someone with no status?" "Ning brat, aren't you just an advisor?" "Of course, she's talking about the 2 of us." Without giving the young woman a chance to speak, Uncle Long spoke first. "That's right, it's you 2. The young woman suppressed the fear in her heart and said with a disapproving look, "Humph." She did not believe that the 2 people in front of her would dare to hurt her. "So my status as the master of the Ning family is worthless in your eyes?" Master Ning continued to ask, his handsome face still full of curiosity. "Humph. What's so great about being the head of the Ning family?" After being asked by the master of the Ning family, the young woman's temper suddenly flared up. She didn't care if she could afford to provoke the other party. In any case, she had already provoked him, so what was there to be afraid of? In addition, she was very sure that if Master Ning knew her identity, he would not dare to hurt her. "Ha! Well said, what's so great about being the head of the Ning family?" Uncle Long couldn't help but laugh wildly when he saw Master Ning's constipated face after hearing the young woman's words. His tone was full of gloating. He deserved it. This old man didn't want to give up and had to ask so clearly. Now great, the other party didn't care about his identity at all. This old man must be embarrassed now, right? The master of the Ning family was more than embarrassed. He was so depressed that he wanted to die. But of the few people present, the most depressed was Madame Miao, who was treated like an invisible person. At this moment, she even wanted to die. His little heart was beating uncontrollably, and he cursed in his heart. How could this woman be so brainless? He actually dared to say in public that the master of the Ning family was so great? What's so great about him that you can evaluate him? Is he someone you can provoke? This was definitely the rhythm of courting death. Madame Miao felt that she had really made a mistake by coming here today. She should not have come here. Thanks, after thinking about it, she felt that she could not stay here any longer. She wanted to leave before the situation got out of hand, and she was implicated. After making her decision, Madame Miao suddenly stood up and bowed to Uncle Long and Master Ning. "Two seniors, I just remembered that I still have some unfinished business at home. I think I should take my leave first." "You bastard. If she didn't leave now, she was afraid that she would lose all her face. Seeing that Madame Meow was about to leave, Uncle Long smiled calmly and asked, "What? Madame Meow also feels that we, who have no status, are not qualified to entertain you. So you want to leave? Humph. It's good that you know." Without waiting for Madame Meow, whose face had turned pale from fright, to answer, the young woman rushed to answer, her beautiful face full of disgust. "You shut up." Madame Meow roared at the young woman angrily, then turned to Uncle Long with an apologetic look. "Senior, you've misunderstood. How could I think that way? There's really something at home." After saying this, she was already breaking out in cold sweat. She wanted to strangle this stupid woman in front of her. Damn it. It's fine if you're the one pulling the aggro, but why did you drag her into it? They were not from the same country. Madame Meow was exceptionally angry, but the young woman was even angrier than her after being yelled at. After that, the young woman turned her spear around and pointed it directly at Madame Meow. She then roared, "Miao Tsuehua, who are you shouting at? Who gave you the guts? You're getting bolder, aren't you? You bastard. I said don't call me Miao Tsuehua. My surname isn't Meow." When Madame Meow heard those 3 words, she was instantly enraged. Seeing that the 2 tigresses were about to fight, Uncle Long and Master Ning were speechless and didn't know what to say. Aren't these 2 a little too dramatic? How did the 2 of them get into a fight in such a short time? Lung Ruoxia, who had been waiting outside the door, almost burst out laughing when she heard the name Miao Tsuehua. This reminded her of something, especially the 2 words Tsuehua. Tsuehua served the pickled vegetables. Such loving words. As she thought about it, Lung Ruoxia's thoughts flew off again. At the same time, the young woman in the living room heard Madame Meow's words and simply sneered. "Yep. Your last name is Moo, not Meow. Meow and Moo are both plants, so what does it matter if your last name is Moo? Of course it's related. I'm a tough woman, and you're asking me to take my husband's surname. Aren't you looking down on me? Humph. If you want to follow, hell follow my surname Moo. It's best if you all call him President Moo in the future." Madame Meow roared. "Miao Tsuehua, don't even think about it." The young woman's eyelids twitched. She had no intention of fulfilling Madame Meow's wish. When Madame Meow saw this, her anger instantly rose. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she pounced on the young woman, and the 2 of them started to fight. Uncle Long and Master Ning were dumbfounded by this scene. What was going on? Chapter 2804. We're here to take you in, too. Why did the 2 of them start fighting? One had to know that the young woman's cannon fire was still aimed at them. But in the blink of an eye, the church had started killing each other. And the reason for killing each other was actually because of their surnames. Thinking of President Moo, Uncle Long and Master Ning couldn't help but sympathize with him. Then, the 2 of them glanced at the middle-aged man who was still sitting calmly on the chair, not paying any attention to the fight between Madame Meow and the young woman. They thought to themselves, could it be that this kind of situation happens often? Otherwise, why would this person be so indifferent? It had to be said that Uncle Long and Master Ning were right. Madame Meow and the young woman had been at odds for a long time. For the 2 of them to be able to live in peace for 2 days, that could definitely be called a miracle in the history of the divine realm. This time, however, the clan had sent 2 of them to Demon City. This result had already shocked the entire clan. Now the 2 of them had finally gotten along peacefully in someone else's territory for a while, and now, they finally couldn't hold on any longer and started fighting. After the 2 of them started fighting, Uncle Long and Master Ning didn't think about pulling them apart. It was none of their business anyway, as long as they didn't destroy the decorations. Just as the 2 of them were thinking about this, they heard a loud bang. A beautiful vase that was half the height of a person placed in the upper left corner of the living room shattered. Uncle Long's heart ached when he saw this. This was his favorite flower vase, and she had returned to nature just like that. No, I can't just let it go like this. He had to take revenge for his most beloved vase. Uncle Long, who had made up his mind, suddenly looked up and saw the gloating eyes of the master of the Ning family. At this moment, those red eyes were telling him, I told you not to stop it, but now you're in trouble, right? Uncle Long glared back. At this moment, there was another loud noise, and then he saw Master Ning's face turn black. This time, it was Uncle Long's turn to gloat. The two of them didn't have to care about each other before, but now they didn't have to laugh at each other. Uncle Long instantly felt better. But Master Ning was so angry that he wanted to cut the two women in front of him into 8 pieces. It was really too detestable. The vase that the two of them smashed later on was his favorite. However, before Master Ning had time to worry, a series of banging sounds came to his ears. The two of them looked up at the same time, and no one spoke. All right. They had to admit that the two women's destructive power was unparalleled, because the decorations in the living room were basically destroyed. Seeing this tragic scene, the two of them were actually not angry anymore. He sat on the chair calmly and quietly became an audience. When the two women were tired and sat on the ground, panting, Uncle Long and Master Ning stood up from their chairs and walked to them, asking indifferently, "Are you done?" Madame Miao was jolted back to her senses when she heard this. At the same time, she saw the ruins in front of her, and her heart instantly turned cold. Oh my God! Did the two of them do this? Madame Miao truly didn't expect that her uncontrollable anger would actually cause such a big problem. What should he do? Thanks, sob. Madame Miao burst into tears. Even though she had not interacted much with Lung Ruoxue, she had already experienced how terrifying that lass was. The two of them were definitely not on the same level. For a moment, she was a little panicked. But the young woman didn't take it seriously, and even took Uncle Long and Master Ning's words as mockery, so she quickly retorted, "It's none of your business. It's not that we want to interfere. We just want to remind you that you two have broken our things, and you need to compensate us." Uncle Long said calmly with a smile on his face, "Compensation? In your dreams. I've broken countless things since I was young, and no one has ever dared to ask me for compensation." The young woman said disdainfully after hearing what Uncle Long said. "Not in the past doesn't mean that there won't be in the future, you know? In addition, I don't care who you are. No matter how high your status is, can it be higher than that bitch Wu Chen? She has to pay the price in blood for smashing our things. Do you think you can beat her?" Uncle Long sneered. I. The young woman was speechless. Even though she still wanted to argue, she really couldn't say that she was nobler than Wu Chen. However, when compared to Lung Ruoxue, she felt that she was nobler. Thinking of this, the young woman said, "Although my status is not as noble as God Lord Rhyme Ripple S, it's still more than enough to compare to Lung Ruoxue's. So, even if I destroy everything in her place, she has no right to ask me for compensation." The young woman's self-confidence made Uncle Long and Master Ning speechless, and they were even more dissatisfied with her belittling Shui and raising her own status. But before they could flare up, they heard a faint and familiar voice. "Your name is God Lord Fogripple? Do you still think that your status is higher than mine?" As she spoke, Lung Ruoxue had already stepped into the living room. Following behind her were Dongfeng Yu and the rest, as well as the shape-shifted beasts. At this moment, be it humans or beastie, their expressions were not very good. They had already been standing outside and watching the show for a while. But now, he naturally had to support Shui. "Who are you?" Despite Lung Ruoxue's words, the young lady still asked. "I'm Lung Ruoxue. Why, didn't you do your homework before coming here?" Lung Ruoxue glanced at the young lady who was in a sorry state and asked coldly. Hearing this, the young woman's eyes unconsciously flashed with a trace of jealousy. She hated it. Lung Ruoxue was indeed as beautiful as the legends had said. Not only that, she was now famous, causing people to tremble in fear. All of this made her feel extremely unfair. Why? However, how could a woman who had ascended from the lower realm have all this? As for her, a woman of noble birth, she could only keep a low profile and live in a dark corner. Not known by the people of the divine realm? This was too unfair. The jealousy in the young woman's heart instantly reached its peak. At this moment, she deeply felt that people like Miao Tsuehua were no longer worthy of her jealousy. Lung Ruoxue was her greatest enemy, and she wanted to have everything that Lung Ruoxue had. The entire demon city should be hers. Thinking of this, The young woman raised her head arrogantly and said, "Your status is not worthy of me doing my homework." Hehe. Was it? I wonder what kind of identity is worthy of you to do your homework. Also, I'd like to know who you are. Why don't you tell me and give me a shock? Lung Ruoxua wasn't angry and even asked with a smile. You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Although my identity isn't something an ascender like you is qualified to know, but seeing that you still have value, I'll tell you kindly. You better listen carefully. I'm Princess Jiao Yu of the Dark Family Alliance, so you'd better be more respectful to me. The young woman said arrogantly. Chapter 2805. We're here to take you in 3. After hearing her words, Madame Miao really wanted to find a hole to hide in. It was too embarrassing. She actually introduced herself in such a manner in front of Lung Ruoxua, that fiend. Did she think that she did not have enough hatred for her? At this moment, Madame Miao didn't even dare to look at Lung Ruoxia's expression. She wished that she had never been here, but it was impossible for her to lie to herself. Sob. With this brain-dead woman around, Lung Ruoxua would never forgive her. Madame Miao's face was instantly filled with sorrow. That resentful aura accompanied her for a long time without dissipating. However, Lung Ruoxua wasn't as angry as Madame Miao thought. Instead, she smiled and said, "Dark Family Alliance? I'm sorry, I've never heard of it." Lung Ruoxua, who had said this, had an extremely innocent expression on her face. She was also a little speechless in her heart. It seemed like this woman's princess illness was not light. However, she was the most experienced in treating princess syndrome. When the woman who called herself Princess Jiuyue heard Lung Ruoxua say that she had never heard of the Dark Alliance, she was instantly enraged. Her face even revealed an expression of disbelief as she shrieked. "Never heard of it? You've never heard of the Dark Family Alliance? You're indeed a country bumpkin." Country bumpkin? Why do I feel that it's because your Dark Family Alliance isn't famous enough? Have you heard of this force? After speaking to the young lady, Lung Ruoxua turned to ask Dongfang Yu and the rest. Dongfang Yu and the others were extremely honest. They even deliberately thought for a while before cautiously saying, "Young master, we've never heard of it. Look, even my men have never heard of it. I think this Dark Family Alliance is not that impressive." Lung Ruoxua said with a smile, "You. How dare you? How dare you look down on our Dark Family Alliance? I think you don't want to live anymore." When Princess Jiuyue heard this, she was so angry that she almost exploded. "I want to live. But I really haven't heard of it. You can't ask me to lie, right? I'm an honest and good child." Lung Ruoxua was still smiling brightly. Then she turned to Madame Miao and said, "Cui Hua, long time no see." "Yup. Long time no see." Madame Miao replied softly, still not daring to raise her head to look at Lung Ruoxua. Sob. This girl might not be as old as her, but the pressure she gave her was not ordinary. "How is President Mu?" After greeting her, Lung Ruoxua asked another question, as though it was a small talk, chatting with Madame Miao. "President Mu?" Hearing this form of address, Madame Miao felt even more embarrassed. Didn't this mean that Lung Ruoxua had heard everything that she had said? Oh my god. Just kill her. She didn't want to live. One should know that Lung Ruoxua was her man's new master, and she had just made a big lie about calling her man President Mu. This time, she was really so depressed that she could not show her face. The more she thought about it, the more Madame Miao felt that she had no face to see anyone. She had embarrassed herself in front of Lung Ruoxua. Sob. Give her a piece of tofu and let her commit suicide, right? Madame Miao was full of resentment. And when Jiao Yu saw that Lung Ruoxua had actually changed her target and ignored her, Jiao Yu, who had always thought of herself as the center of everyone's attention, felt her heart become unbalanced. "Lung Ruoxua, I'm the one who's talking to you right now. Don't bother with that idiot." She yelled without even thinking. Madame Miao, who had been called an idiot, immediately exploded in anger. With a swish, she scurried to Jiao Yu's side and picked her up like a little chick. She then angrily questioned, "Who are you calling an idiot?" "Fuck. You're the one who's a complete idiot, okay?" As they spoke, the two of them were ready to fight again. Lung Ruoxua looked at the scene in front of her and felt a slight headache. Did you two come to my house to fight? Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes flashed with a cold glint as she asked. Of course not. When Madame Miao heard this, she immediately became obedient and stood to the side like a primary school student who had made a mistake. Yes, we're not here to fight. Jiao Yu didn't go against Madame Miao this time, but she continued. We're here to take you in. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxia and the rest fell silent. Was he here to incorporate them? Did they hear wrong? Did the Dark Family Alliance send a few idiots to take them in? Was he trying to punish them? Hearing the Princess Sick Jiao Yu say this, Lung Ruoxia really wanted to ask her if today was April Fool's Day. Can you not be like this? If there's something to say, let's talk it out. What kind of international joke is this? When Jiao Yu saw that the other party's anger was immediately extinguished like a mute after she spoke, she felt extremely pleased. However, as a brainless companion, Madame Miao couldn't be proud no matter what. Thanks, you still want to take them in? What are you going to use to take them in? Just based on your status as a god king? Don't be silly. Any of the beasts here can send you back to your hometown. Madame Miao secretly complained to herself, and at the same time, she felt quite depressed that she had such a companion. She swore that she never wanted to go on a mission with Jiao Yu again in her life. Of course, the possibility of the clan releasing Jiao Yu in the future would not be very big. This guy was simply attracting hatred everywhere. In just a short while, she had offended Uncle Long, Master Ning, and the most difficult person to deal with, Lung Ruoxia, whom even Wu Xian could not do anything to. At this moment, Madame Miao truly did not know how to deal with the situation. Thinking of the task she was shouldering, she didn't know how to start. He hoped that Lung Ruoxia wouldn't be so angry with Jiao Yu that she would immediately list him as a no-contact. After thinking about it this way, Madame Miao felt that it was better for her to have a private talk with Lung Ruoxia first. Although her idea was good, it was rather difficult to put it into practice. Jiao Yu didn't even give her a chance to speak. Seeing that Lung Ruoxia and the others didn't respond for a long time, Jiao Yu couldn't wait any longer and urged, Lung Ruoxia, stop wasting time. Hurry up and gather all your men. I want to give them a speech. From now on, they will be under the leadership of our Dark Clan Alliance. He even wanted to give them a lecture? Lung Ruoxia and the rest looked at each other, feeling even more speechless. At this moment, the crowd and the beasts truly felt that the woman in front of them was seriously ill. Otherwise, why would he have such a strange idea? Who used her? Who was using her as a lecture? Who did he think he was? Go and gather everyone. After a long time, Lung Ruoxia took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to strangle the woman in front of her. She then gave the order. She wanted to see what the Dark Family Alliance was up to. He actually dared to come here and point fingers at her. Did he think she was made of mud? I'll personally gather them. Yes, master. Dongfeng Lin quickly replied and left. Not long after, most of the people had received orders and rushed to the living room. Moreover, there were many humans and beasts in Demon City. The spacious living room could not fit everyone, and soon, the courtyard was filled with people and countless cute little beasts. Dongfeng Lin was extremely dedicated to passing on Lung Ruoxia's orders. He had informed everyone in Demon City, regardless of their relationship with them. This included Ice Soul, Shui Mo, and Bingjia. As soon as the three Qilins appeared, the humans and beasts in the courtyard immediately made way for them. Bingpa, who was holding the Ice Phoenix, was full of question marks. Little girl, what's the matter? Ice Spirit couldn't help but ask. Originally, he didn't want to come, but Dongfeng Lin said that everyone who lived in Demon City had to attend, or else they would bear the consequences. When he heard this, he immediately felt that the matter was not small. So he dragged the unwilling Shui Mo over. When he arrived, Ice Spirit realized that everyone was here. Lung Ruoxia and the others were expressionless, so he could not guess what had happened. Something happened, but I'm not the one looking for you. It's her. Lung Ruoxia nodded and pointed at Jiao Yu. What? Ice Spirit was confused. It wasn't Schwer who was looking for them, but a strange woman. What was going on? Ice Soul glanced at Jiao Yu's strength and felt a little displeased. A puny little divine king was also worth for them to mobilize so many people? That's right. I was the one who asked you to gather. Hearing this, Jiao Yu smiled in satisfaction, but she couldn't help but secretly praise Leng Ruoxue in her heart. Leng Ruoxue was indeed obedient. There were even rumors of how terrifying she was. It simply didn't live up to its name. He was still shocked by her identity as the princess of the Dark Family Alliance. Jiao Yu couldn't hide the smugness on her face. The way she looked at Leng Ruoxue became more and more disdainful, but Leng Ruoxue didn't seem to care. She kept a faint smile on her face. Let's see if you can still laugh later. Jiao Yu cursed. Who are you? After thinking for a while, he still couldn't figure out Jiao Yu's identity as Ice Spirit, so he asked curiously. I'm Princess Jiao Yu. Jiao Yu said smugly as she began to examine the Ice Spirit. Oh, she was a rare beauty. Then, she shifted her gaze to the others and suddenly realized that the men in Leng Ruoxue's room were all of the highest quality. At that moment, she was jealous again. However, the moment she thought about how these people would become her subordinates, the injustice in her heart subsided a little. Ice Spirit didn't like the woman looking at him, as if he was her everything. After hearing the woman's introduction, he smiled and said, I've never heard of it. I'm Princess Jiao Yu of the Dark Family Alliance. Have you really not heard of me? Ice Spirit's ignorance made Jiao Yu very sad. This was too much. How could she not have heard of her? No, I have another question. What is the Dark Family Alliance? Ice Spirit asked innocently. This time, Jiao Yu was completely depressed. Chapter 2806. Looking for trouble? Courting death? 1. How detestable. How detestable. Why are all these country bumpkins from Demon City? Princess Jiao Yu was so depressed that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. She could bear the fact that Leng Ruoxue didn't know her. After all, that woman came from a small place, and it was natural that she didn't see the world. But when she told him about her identity, how could such an outstanding man in front of her not have heard of her? This was something that Princess Jiao Yu couldn't accept. From what she knew, even though she was not as famous as Leng Ruoxue, she had already said that she was the princess of the Dark Family Alliance. How could this man not know anything about her? One must know that the Dark Family Alliance was quite important in the eyes of some major powers. And no matter how she looked at it, the man in front of her didn't seem to have come from a small corner. So she couldn't understand the blank expression on his face when he saw her. Thinking of this, Jiao Yu couldn't help but ask, You really haven't heard of the Dark Family Alliance and my great name? I really didn't. Ice Spirit's answer was still very sincere. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue was having a hard time holding back her laughter. This princess like Jiao Yu seemed to have kicked Ice Spirit, this iron plate. Damn it. How can you not have heard of me? I'm the famous Princess Jiao Yu. Stop! The furious Jiao Yu suddenly roared, her entire body trembling with anger. However, Ice Spirit looked at Leng Ruoxue, as if she was looking at a lunatic. She then asked Leng Ruoxue with her eyes, Where did this lunatic come from? Leng Ruoxue couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This time, she had completely angered Princess Jiao Yu and successfully made her target her. With her hands on her hips, Jiao Yu shouted at the top of her lungs like a shrew. Leng Ruoxue, how dare you mock me? I won't let you off. I'll make you pay the price. After yelling at Leng Ruoxue, she didn't give Leng Ruoxue a chance to react and continued to yell at the others. And you guys, I won't let you off either. You will become the lowest status slaves of our Dark Family Alliance. By the way, give me the dog you're holding in your arms. I want to roast it and eat it. The last sentence was for Ice Spirit. After hearing her words, Ice Spirit's face darkened. Roast it and eat it? Ice. Fuck. She dared to say in front of him that she was going to roast his son to eat. Wasn't she courting death? You're saying, you want me to give you the little dog in my arms? Ice Spirit asked as she suppressed her anger. That's right, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat it for lunch. He was a man. Yet he was learning how to hug a dog like a woman. Looks like I'll have to teach you a good lesson in the future. Otherwise, you'll be a complete disgrace to all men. Jiao Yu said in dissatisfaction. She didn't realize that Ice Spirit, who didn't want to argue with the crazy man, had already treated her as a dead person because of her words. The onlookers silently lit candles for the bold woman in front of them who was not afraid of death. There was probably only one woman in the world who dared to say that she would roast her son in front of his father. More importantly, Bing Yao was simply the forbidden unicorn of Ice Soul now. Therefore, this woman was definitely courting death. You still want to train me? After listening to Jiao Yu's words, Ice Soul finally reacted. He had lived for so long, but this was the first time someone had dared to speak to him like this. Therefore, he would be sorry if he didn't hold back this bold woman. Of course, but you're not the only one I want to train. Every one of you here is my target. In the future, you'll be under my leadership, so I'll train you to be the best slaves. Jiao Yu said confidently. As she spoke, there was no lack of a proud expression on her face, as if everything she had said had already become a reality. Thanks at the same time. Everyone who had been unjustly accused came to the same conclusion in their hearts. This woman did have a mental problem. He had never heard of a mental hospital in the divine realm. Then where did this woman come from? Everyone was really puzzled. For a moment, a big question mark was hanging on everyone's faces. Seeing this, Jiao Yu thought that everyone was afraid, so she continued. As long as you're obedient, I won't hit or scold you. Fine, they still wanted to hit and scold them. Lan Lai, who had been watching from the side, couldn't take it anymore. He asked Lung Ruoxue without thinking. Schwer, who's this crazy person? Where did you come from? Princess Jiao Yu from the Dark Family Alliance. Little Lai Lai, were you in a daze when I introduced myself just now? Lung Ruoxue teased calmly. Lan Lai couldn't help but question. Are all the people from the Dark Family Alliance crazy like this? AI. If you're sick, you have to be treated. How could they let the people of this force out so easily? It's too dangerous. Yup. I thought it was dangerous too, but they let it out, and it was on my territory. Lung Ruoxue agreed. As she spoke, her beautiful eyes swept over Madame Miao, who was pretending to be invisible. Madame Miao's heart started to palpitate when Lung Ruoxue glanced at her so casually. She cursed silently in her heart. It's none of my business. This was really none of her business. She was innocent. Please don't involve the innocent. At this moment, Madame Miao couldn't be bothered to explain Jiao Yu's actions. She felt that in the face of Jiao Yu's performance, no matter how many words she said, it would be useless. Instead of this, she might as well let Lung Ruoxue and the others act on their own. She couldn't care so much. After giving Lung Ruoxue an apologetic look, Madame Miao continued to remain silent. She even couldn't help but shrink into a corner to avoid attracting attention. What do you mean by your territory? This is clearly mine. At this moment, Jiao Yu, whose face had turned red from Lung Ruoxue and Lan Lai's conversation, finally managed to shout out these words. Everyone fell silent again. Uncle Long and the others were especially depressed. This woman was obviously beyond cure. Schwer, what's going on? Isn't this place yours? Ice Spirit didn't understand, but she suppressed her anger and wanted to get to the bottom of this. However, before Lung Ruoxue could answer, Jiao Yu quickly said, It used to be hers, but after we take over this place, it'll be mine. Of course, that includes all of you. You want to take over this place? On what basis? Ice Spirit asked with her eyes wide open. All of a sudden, he realized that he wasn't as angry as before, because the other party was really a lunatic. Otherwise, how could someone in someone else's territory say that they wanted to take over the other party so naturally? Was this something a normal person should do? Just because I'm the princess of the Dark Family Alliance. Jiao Yu said proudly. Chapter 2807. Looking for trouble? Courting death? 2. Alright. At this moment, Ice Spirit had to admit that the Dark Family Alliance was quite capable. At least they had raised a crazy person. When the others present heard Jiao Yu's words, they immediately treated it as a fart and let it go. Not only that, but they were also excited to watch the show. A woman who dared to come to Demon City to steal territory had to be worshipped. Lan Lai was the first person to express this wish. Princess Jiao Yu, right? I've decided from now on, you'll be my nauseating elephant. A target to vomit. Humph. In the future, remember to serve me well. Although your strength is a bit low, your face is still passable, so this princess will not care so much. Jiao Yu said honestly. Hearing this, Lan Lai was embarrassed and couldn't help but think. This Princess Jiao Yue, you should be more calculative. He really didn't have the habit of serving a psychopath. Little Lan Lai, congratulations. At this time, the crowd, who wanted to see the world in chaos, began to tease him again. Lan Lai was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have talked nonsense with this lunatic. Great, now he was inside. Jiao Yu saw that so many people were envious and jealous of Lan Lai, so she waved her hand and said, "You don't have to be envious of him. As long as you perform well, you will have the opportunity to serve me. However, I have very high standards for men, and ordinary people won't be able to enter my eyes. So if your looks don't meet my standards, please leave." As soon as these words came out, it once again hit the glass hearts of a large number of men. It wasn't that they wanted to serve Princess Jiao Yue, but that they were disgusted by the shameless words of the woman in front of them. He really didn't know how this woman's brain worked. How could he have such a weird idea? How could the other party tell that they were envious? However, Jiao Yu was obviously living in her own world, and didn't notice the nauseating expressions of the people in front of her. After that, she directed her gaze at Lung Ruoxue. "As for you, I think you should just be my uncle's concubine." "Me?" Lung Ruoxue looked around and could not help but ask. "It's you. With your status, being a concubine is already a good thing for you," Jiao Yu said disdainfully. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She didn't want to take advantage of him like this, okay? At this time, the middle-aged man who seemed to be Jiao Yu's uncle raised his head and looked at Lung Ruoxue with a scrutinizing look. Then he nodded in satisfaction. Lung Ruoxue was rendered speechless by this. She really couldn't understand why the Dark Family Alliance was here. Looking for trouble? Are you looking for death? It seemed like everything was possible. At the same time, Uncle Long and Master Ning looked at each other and asked in unison, "I don't know what kind of task Princess Jiao Yue is planning to arrange for us, you guys?" Hearing this, Jiao Yu sized up the two of them, and she couldn't help but feel a little excited. Look, the other party was the master of the Ning family. Weren't they also captured by her domineering aura? At this moment, she had long forgotten that Master Ning was not someone she could afford to offend, and was completely immersed in her own fantasy. "You guys just watch the door for me. AI. You guys are too old. There's a generation gap between us." Jiao Yu's face was full of regret, and her heart was even more lamenting. If Master Ning was a bit younger, she might have directly taken him in. However, although she disliked the other party for being a little old, she was quite satisfied with Master Ning's tactfulness. Thinks he should be the master of the Ning family. Look, after knowing her identity, he took the initiative to send himself to her door. Very good, she liked this kind of person. After thinking about it, she gave Master Ning a satisfied look. But Master Ning was not happy. Let him guard the door? Look at your sister. If it wasn't for the fact that no one was making a move, Master Ning would have killed Princess Jiao Yue right in front of him. He also guaranteed that the Dark Family Alliance wouldn't even dare to let out a fart. To be honest, he knew about the Dark Clan, but he had no idea when they formed an alliance. However, this didn't stop him from wanting to deal with the woman in front of him. More importantly, he wasn't afraid of the Dark Family Alliance. What a pity. Right now, everyone was obviously still admiring the woman's self-directed act, and wanted to see how weird this woman was. Therefore, no one thought of destroying the other party as soon as they came up. But it was undeniable that Master Ning, who had always claimed to be very patient with women, really couldn't stand it now. Uncle Long couldn't take it either, but he had a high level of patience, so he had been holding it in and waiting for it to explode. Fuck. Let him guard the door too? Could the Dark Family Alliance afford to hire him? However, Uncle Long knew that the other party definitely didn't intend to pay. Why? Are you not satisfied with my arrangement? Seeing that Uncle Long and Master Ning didn't express their gratitude, Jiao Yu couldn't help but ask. "Am satisfied. Am very satisfied." The two of them immediately agreed. "As long as you're satisfied." Work hard in the future and I won't mistreat you. Jiao Yu said as if she was the master of the house. Did they really think of themselves as their master? Shui I can't take it anymore. Let's do it. Dongfang Lin, who had been watching the show for a long time, finally couldn't help but urge. If he continued to watch, he was afraid that he would be the next one to be arranged. No, they had already made arrangements. From now on, they would all be this woman's slaves. Just these 2 or 3 cats, is it worth us working together? Glancing at Jiao Yu and the middle-aged man, Leng Ruoxue laughed. Among the 2 of them, the woman was a divine king while the man was a divine emperor. Leng Ruoxue had no intention of making a move against them despite their strength. However, the fact that the other party dared to come to her place and make such a big fuss showed that he was extremely bold. That's true. Who's next? Dongfang Lin thought for a moment and turned to ask the person beside him. Are we really going to make a move? Do you want him dead or alive? Someone asked. As you wish. Dongfang Lin didn't seem to care. Brothers, what are we waiting for? Let's kill him. It was unknown who shouted this, but immediately after, the people around Dongfang Lin swarmed forward. The people who had attacked were all like fiends, and when they swarmed in front of Jiao Yu and the middle-aged man, the 2 of them began to panic. Jiao Yu even asked, You, what are you doing? Don't mess around. I'm the princess of the Dark Family Alliance. If you hurt me, the Dark Family Alliance will never let you go. Block her mouth. Leng Ruoxue didn't want to listen to Jiao Yu's bragging anymore, so she ordered. One of them immediately took off his stinky socks and stuffed them into Jiao Yu's mouth. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them were captured without any resistance. Chapter 2808. Looking for trouble? Seeking death? 3. Jiao Yu's mouth was blocked, and she couldn't say a single word. The smell of the stinky socks almost made her faint, but just as she had the intention to faint, she felt a needle-like pain in her body, making her unable to faint even if she wanted to. The middle-aged man's mouth wasn't gagged, but when he saw Leng Ruoxue walking towards him step by step, his face revealed a hint of panic. He opened his mouth and stammered. You, what do you want? Don't mess around. I'm from the Dark Clan Alliance. You can't hurt me. Yo. So you're not a mute? Uncle Long asked in surprise. It doesn't look like it. Master Ning also agreed. Don't worry. I don't intend to hurt you. I just want to know if you're the uncle that this woman is talking about. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue smiled like a girl next door. However, the cold glint in her beautiful eyes caused one's heart to feel a chill. I am not. Under Leng Ruoxue's gaze, the middle-aged man felt an unprecedented fear. How could he still dare to admit that he was the uncle that Jiao Yu had been talking about? You really didn't he? I hate it when people lie. Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disdain for the man. I am really not. The middle-aged man said again. Well, why does this woman give off such a terrifying feeling? The middle-aged man was filled with regret. Why did he have any ideas about Leng Ruoxue? At this moment, he was deeply remorseful. In fact, Jiao Yu's previous performance was something that the 2 of them had discussed. He had long heard that Leng Ruoxue's beauty was unparalleled, so naturally, he yearned for her. In addition, Jiao Yu was quite envious and jealous of Leng Ruoxue's achievements. Thus, the 2 of them, who shared the same taste, came to an agreement. That was to first give Leng Ruoxue and the others a taste of their might, then take the opportunity to subdue them. The subjugation in their hearts was naturally to take over everything that Leng Ruoxue had. But now their plan had clearly failed. They had never thought about why Leng Ruoxue was not afraid of the Dark Family Alliance's reputation, and dared to treat them this way. It had to be said that the 2 of them felt too good about themselves. Otherwise, why would they take it for granted that things would develop according to their plan? Madame Cui Hua, is he really not? Seeing the middle-aged man deny it once again, Leng Ruoxue stopped asking him. Instead, she asked Madame Miao, who was hiding in a corner, hoping to be ignored by the crowd. With that, Madame Miao instantly became the focus of everyone's attention. There's actually a fish that escaped the net. Lan Lai couldn't help but laugh. I am not a fish that escaped the net. Am not from the same country as them. Madame Meow explained with a stammer. Sob. Can you not treat me like this? She had a mission here. Madame Meow was rather worried, especially when she saw the angry glares of the crowd. Her explanation seemed rather weak and powerless. Not a country? Aren't you two together? Lan Lai asked. They are together, Uncle Long said in all seriousness, not giving Madame Meow a chance to speak. We have different ideas, so please don't compare us. Helpless, Madame Meow could only explain it this way. But her words made Jiao Yu quite dissatisfied. Jiao Yu, whose mouth was gagged, was struggling with all her might, hoping that someone would notice her angry expression. Miao Zuehua, if I'm treated like this, don't even think about having a good time. Jiao Yu, who couldn't speak, cursed in her heart. Unfortunately, no one cared about her thoughts. Madame Zuehua, don't be nervous. Answer me first. Is he the uncle that this Princess Jiaoyue is talking about? Leng Ruoxua asked directly. Yes. Madame Meow nodded heavily. The middle-aged man's face turned pale, and he shouted at the top of his lungs. Miao Zuehua, you vicious woman. How dare you frame me? Was it Uncle Jiaoyue who framed you? Everyone was speechless and didn't know what to say. It seemed that both Jiao Yu and her uncle had mental problems. After making such an appraisal, everyone's sympathetic eyes turned to Madame Meow. Seeing this, Madame Meow wanted to explode. However, this wasn't her house, so she endured it. Sob, I'm really too aggrieved today. At this moment, Madame Meow wished that she had never appeared. But was that possible? Not only had she come to Demon City, but she had also brought two idiots with her. Now she was about to be implicated by them. Madame Meow's heart sank. She didn't know how Leng Ruoxua was going to deal with her. Would her man be implicated? Who knew that Leng Ruoxua could sense Madame Meow's worry, and merely patted her on the shoulder. It's almost noon, let's eat first. Oh. Well, eat pickled vegetables for lunch. It just so happens that Cui Hua is here. Thanks, eat. Madame Meow didn't know how to react for a moment. She hadn't even come up with the results of her investigation, so why did she have to eat first? However, when she saw that everyone present was calm and composed, she forced herself to calm down. It was good to eat first. At least it would buy her some time. With that thought in mind, Madame Meow took the initiative to please Leng Ruoxua, and even asked for her help. Seeing her like this, Leng Ruoxua laughed in her heart. It looked like she was about to eat the pickled vegetables on the emerald flower. This feeling was really. Then Cui Hua, who was responsible for serving the pickled vegetables, was taken to the kitchen. When Leng Ruoxua finally ate the pickled vegetables on the emerald flower, her heart finally felt satisfied. After lunch, everyone had to take an afternoon nap as usual, so Madame Meow and the other two were left in the living room and ignored. Of course, other than Madame Meow, the other two people had their personal freedom restricted, and were tied up to the pillars in the living room. Such a fact left Madame Meow speechless and at a loss for words. Under normal circumstances, shouldn't he have dealt with Jiaoyue and her uncle first? Why did they all go back to their rooms to sleep now? Madame Meow frowned as she sat on the chair, deep in thought. However, no matter how hard she tried to figure it out, she could not understand. Miao Zuehua, let us down while no one is around. At this time, the middle-aged man who could still speak asked in a half-commanding tone. Hearing this, Madame Meow raised her head and glanced at the middle-aged man, then lowered her head again and ignored him. However, she was snorting in her heart. Let you down? And then? Do you want Leng Ruoxua to treat you as her accomplice? Was she that stupid? Originally, their relationship wasn't very harmonious, so Madame Meow naturally didn't have the thought of helping each other at the cost of her own life. More importantly, seeing that Jiao Yu was out of luck, she was already giving her face by not stepping on her, and now she wanted her to let her go? Wouldn't that be daydreaming? When the middle-aged man saw Madame Meow's expression, he knew that she wanted to stand by and watch. He couldn't help but curse. Miao Zuehua, you bitch. How can you be so vicious? We're all part of the Dark Family Alliance. Are you really not going to do anything? Aren't you afraid that the Alliance will be unhappy if they find out that you didn't do anything to help us? I don't know if the people of the Alliance will be unhappy with me, but I can be sure that Lung Ruoxue and the others are already very unhappy with the two of you. So, you'd better think about how to get past Lung Ruoxue. As for me, you don't need to worry about me. Madame Miao said coldly. Then, she took out a piece of cloth from somewhere and stuffed it into the middle-aged man's mouth. Just like that, the middle-aged man was forced to shut his mouth. However, his eyes that were spewing fire glared at Madame Miao with extreme hatred, as if he couldn't wait to bite her. Unfortunately, Madame Miao didn't care at all. After an unknown period of time, the restless Madame Miao finally saw the refreshed Lung Ruoxue and the others. Did Madame Ciuihua rest well? Lung Ruoxue asked when she saw Madame Miao. It's all right. Madame Miao bit the bullet and replied. Sob. She didn't rest well at all? These people threw her into the living room and disappeared without a trace, leaving her alone to worry. Since you've rested well, let's be calm. Lung Ruoxue smiled. All right. Madame Miao nodded her head vigorously. This was exactly what she had been waiting for. Following that, Lung Ruoxue ordered her men to take Jiao Yu and the middle-aged man away, leaving Madame Miao in the living room. Madame Miao is also a member of the Dark Family Alliance? Lung Ruoxue asked directly. Yes, I am. Madame Miao hurriedly nodded. So your Dark Family Alliance is going to be my enemy? Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and continued to ask. This is definitely a misunderstanding. Madame Miao immediately explained. Misunderstanding? I don't think so. Before this, we all heard it clearly. That Princess Jiaoyue is here to take over our demon city. Lung Ruoxue said with a half-smile. That's just what she thinks, not what we think. We hope to be on good terms with Miss Lung. Madame Miao said with a long face. What, a Dark Family Alliance has a different opinion? Lung Ruoxue smiled. Her smile was so bright and beautiful. However, this smile in Madame Miao's eyes sent chills down her spine. Lung Ruoxue was not an easy person to get along with, and now that Jiao Yu and her two idiots had caused this, her impression of the Dark Family Alliance would probably take a sharp turn for the worse. Ai. What was this good? Although Madame Miao was a little anxious, she still replied honestly. It is indeed so. The Dark Families, led by our Mu family, would like to have the opportunity to cooperate with Miss Lung, but the family that Jiao Yu represents does not agree. They want to take us in. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. Previously, she wanted to see what other tricks that Princess Jiao Yu could pull, so she didn't act up on the spot. But now she's seen enough. Naturally, she wouldn't allow a small character like Jiao Yu to continue to act arrogantly in front of her. However, it was not her place to deal with the woman, because Ice Spirit had already reserved her. Chapter 2809. I won't take it, alright? 1. I'm not too sure about the details. I only know that the dark clans led by Juyue are strongly opposed to befriending Miss Lung. They feel that Miss Lung's strength. Madame Miao could not finish her sentence, but Lung Ruoxue already understood what she meant. In that case, why did you send her here? Did you come here on purpose to make things difficult for me? Or is the Dark Family Alliance itching for my help? Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. Although she had a smile on her face when she said this, Madame Miao's heart was particularly uneasy. After some thought, she replied honestly. The Alliance decided to send them here after some discussion. I can't do anything about it. Powerless? Well, you're quite helpless. So I don't understand why the Dark Family Alliance would send someone like you who is powerless. Could it be that there's no one left in the Dark Family Alliance? Lung Ruoxue suddenly changed the topic and spoke in a cold tone. They sent me here because I've met Miss Lung once. Madame Miao explained patiently. You want to play the emotional card? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. Ugh. Madame Miao was at a loss for words. Even though her family did have such thoughts, could she admit it? Right now, she could not quite grasp Lung Ruoxue's thoughts, so she did not dare to speak carelessly, afraid that she would say something that would make this ancestor unhappy. Then uncle and nephew Jiaoyue, do you still plan to take it back? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask when she saw that her opponent was silent. What does this mean? That pair of idiots didn't want to give it to them? In fact, she didn't really care whether she returned it or not, but she was afraid that Jiao Yu's family wouldn't let it go. However, she believed that Leng Ruoxue shouldn't be afraid. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked. After thinking for a while, Madame Miao replied with a serious expression, "Our Mu family doesn't really care about Jiu Yue and her uncle. We're just afraid that Jiao Yu's family will have some ideas. It's good to have an idea," Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. Yup. Madame Miao laughed awkwardly. It seemed like the Dark Family Alliance was also going to pay a huge price. "You'll have to trouble Madame Cui Hua to return, and tell your alliance that we're confiscating Princess Jiao Yu and her uncle," Leng Ruoxue suddenly said. Then she stood up and prepared to send the guest off. When Madame Miao saw this, she was dumbfounded. Was she being chased out? The master had already stood up, so how could she still sit down? How could she just leave like that? It seemed that she had not completed her task yet. Madame Miao opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but when she saw Leng Ruoxue's cold gaze, she realized that she couldn't say a single word. In her depression, Madame Miao still left dejectedly. At the same time, Jiao Yu and her uncle, who had fallen into Ice Spirit's hands, had no idea that their end was coming. While Ice Spirit was dealing with them, the two of them still wanted to haggle with Ice Spirit, which made Ice Spirit speechless. When Leng Ruoxue and the others came to watch the show, they happened to see Ice Spirit's helpless expression. In her confusion, Leng Ruoxue could not help but ask, "Senior, why do you look like you've just suffered a blow? Could it be that the uncle and nephew are making you feel conflicted?" "Thanks, yup. I'm in awe of the shamelessness of these two humans," Ice Spirit replied in a bad mood. Why don't you tell me?" Dongfang Lin's curiosity was piqued. He leaned over to Ice Spirit and laughed evilly. "This woman said that as long as I let her go, she would devote her life to me and even let me be her husband." Ice Spirit told him honestly. "Poochie." Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue and the others couldn't help but burst out laughing. They had to admit that they really admired Jiao Yu. Even at this time, she was still thinking of using her beauty as a trap. It was just that she had used the wrong person. "Little girl, you don't have to smile. That man also said that if you let him go, he will give you to me." Seeing Leng Ruoxue's cheery smile, Ice Soul added. This time, it was Leng Ruoxue's turn to be unable to smile. She really couldn't understand how Jiao Yu and her uncle's brain circuits worked. How could they be so different from ordinary people? Could it be that the Dark Family Alliance had produced some strange people? At the thought of the Dark Family Alliance, Leng Ruoxue suddenly turned to Uncle Long and Master Ning and asked, "Uncle Long, Godfather, when did the Dark Generation form an alliance?" "I don't know. The Dark Clan has always been secretive. Even if they have formed an alliance, I'm afraid they won't spread it out. But according to my guess, the reason why the Dark Clans formed an alliance should have a lot to do with that bitch, Wu Yan," Master Ning said after thinking carefully. "What?" Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with question marks. There was a period of time when Wu Yan wanted the people of the Dark Generation Alliance in the Divine World. At that time, many people of the Dark Generation were captured. Later on, the Dark Generation seemed to have withdrawn from the Divine World and disappeared without a trace. Now, it seems like the Dark Generation is recuperating and storing up their strength. Today, they should be coming out of the Divine World again, Master Ning explained with a smile. "In that case, there are some unspeakable things between them and that bitch, Ripple Mist?" Leng Ruoxue laughed and teased. "This isn't strange. After the Ripple, which became a divine master, some people from the Dark Clans caused her a lot of trouble. They even secretly spread rumors that her position as a divine master was not legitimate, that her words were not right, that she had stolen it, and so on. All of these things made the Ripple Witch angry, so she naturally spent a lot of effort to deal with them." Master Ning continued. "Schwerer, there are a few elders in the Dark Clan who used to be my friends. Like me, they are also loyal to Master Yu. I just don't know if they are still alive. After all, we haven't contacted each other for many years," Uncle Long said. This was also one of the reasons why he didn't attack in a fit of rage after Jiao Yu revealed that she was a member of the Dark Family Alliance. Uncle Long, what do you think of uncle and nephew Jiaoyue? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask when she saw that Uncle Long seemed to have some history with the Dark Clan. What thoughts can I have? That kind of brain-dead person is definitely not the descendant of my friends. However, even if he is, it doesn't matter. I believe that this is definitely not the intention of my old friends. Uncle Long said with certainty. I keep feeling that something's not right. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Lung Ruoxue asked after hearing Uncle Long's words. Shui, are you trying to say that the Dark Family Alliance is not peaceful? Master Ning asked. Yes, but I'm afraid that's only one of the reasons. What I don't understand is, why did they send uncle and nephew Jiaoyue? Are you really trying to annoy us? Lung Ruoxue voiced out her doubts. Although she had asked Madame Miao clearly didn't know much about it, and only said that it was the Alliance's decision. Why did the Alliance make such a decision? What's the secret behind this? Shui, why are you thinking so much? You'll know eventually. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue was deep in thought again, Ice Soul could not help but ask. Chapter 28:10. I want take it, alright? Too alright. I don't want to think about it anymore. No matter what the Dark Family Alliance's goal is, I'll just deal with it when the time comes. Lung Ruoxue laughed. That's more like it. In any case, I'll never let that Princess Jiaoyue off. She wants to eat my son? I'd like to see if she has the life to do so. As for her uncle, I'll leave him to you. Ice Spirit said to Lung Ruoxue with a vicious look. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue felt helpless. Could she say that she didn't need Ice Spirit to leave her stupid uncle to her? However, Ice Spirit did not care if Lung Ruoxue was willing to accept him or not. She went into the room and pulled Jiaoyu's uncle out. She threw him in front of Lung Ruoxue and said, Shui, take him away. I won't take it, alright? Looking at the unconscious middle-aged man on the ground, Lung Ruoxue was in a dilemma. What's wrong? Do you need me to carry it back for you? Seeing that Lung Ruoxue didn't have any reaction, Ice Spirit asked with a smirk. Senior, isn't it a bit inappropriate to separate uncle and nephew? Lung Ruoxue was very reserved, but Bing Po waved his hand and said, What's wrong with that? It's not good to put them together. These two are singing the same tune, it's simply unbearable. So, take one of them away quickly, or I can't guarantee that one of them will live to see the sun tomorrow. Obviously, Ice Spirit couldn't take it anymore. Senior, I don't need them to see the sun tomorrow really. Lung Ruoxue was still struggling. Even though the middle-aged man had disgusted her, she was too lazy to deal with him. However, she did not expect Ice Soul to be disgusted by him. What a loathsome fellow. Shui, don't say I didn't warn you. Even if you want to kill him, you have to wait for the Dark Family Alliance's reaction before you do it. Otherwise, do you think they would still be alive? Ice Spirit raised her eyebrows. Alright then. Lung Ruoxue didn't expect Ice Spirit to think this way. No wonder this middle-aged man was only slightly injured and his clothes were in a mess, but he was still alive. After a moment of shame, she still accepted the middle-aged man reluctantly. After she ordered for the middle-aged man to be locked up in the cell, Lung Ruoxue returned to her room. On the other side, Madame Miao had also rushed back to her family without stopping. After reporting the situation in Demon City to her grandfather, she heaved a deep sigh of relief. She hoped that her grandfather would not blame her for not doing her job well. However, she really couldn't be blamed for this. Who knew that Jiaoyu would be in such a daze as soon as she came up? If she had known this would happen, she would not have brought those two idiots with her. However, what Madame Miao didn't expect was that after her grandfather heard her report, he only smiled and didn't have much of a reaction. Madame Miao didn't know what was going on, and left her grandfather's room with a depressed look. However, not long after, Madame Miao received news that the Dark Family Alliance had called for an emergency meeting. Of course, with her status, she was not qualified to attend such a meeting. However, after thinking about it carefully, she guessed what it was about. As such, she actually felt more relaxed. However, at this moment, the Dark Family Alliance's meeting hall was filled with a tense atmosphere. Other than the three of them, All the elders had question marks on their faces. Although many of them didn't know what had happened, there were rumors that something had happened to the alliance. So all of the elders felt really uneasy. Thanks, one had to know that the so-called accident could be big or small. On the big side, the entire alliance would be affected. On the small side, nothing would happen. However, when the elders of the Dark Family Alliance saw the serious expressions on the three people's faces, they couldn't relax at all. Everyone, I've called you here today to discuss something important. After a long silence, a middle-aged man on the left of the leader spoke. According to the ranking of the Dark Clan Alliance, the three at the head were the Alliance Master and Vice Alliance Master. The one in the middle was naturally the Alliance Master, while the other two at the left and right were the Vice Alliance Masters. The one who spoke was one of the Vice Alliance Masters. As soon as he said this, the people in the lower seats immediately perked up and waited for the other party to continue. The middle-aged man sighed and paused on purpose. When he saw that his words had attracted everyone's attention, he continued. Of the three people we sent to Demon City, other than Cui Hua, Jiao Yu and Hong Village have been detained by the enemy. It was detained? Everyone looked at each other when they heard this. What did this mean? Why did you detain him? Are you looking down on the Dark Family Alliance? For a time, everyone was discussing in private. The Vice Alliance Master who had spoken clearly did not intend to stop their discussion. He even looked at the middle-aged man sitting in the middle with a slightly provocative look. However, the middle-aged man who had been provoked was particularly calm and composed. It was obvious that he had no intention of making a sound at this time. Seeing this, one of the Vice Alliance Masters was a little angry. Why? The Vice Alliance Master could not understand how Muduo could still be so calm when things had already come to this point. Didn't he want to be on good terms with Lung Ruoxue? Now that Lung Ruoxue had captured their men, it was clearly a slap to their faces. How could they maintain a good relationship with each other? Alliance Master, don't you have anything to say? The Vice Alliance Lord asked with a cold smile. When he asked this question, the people who were discussing also stopped in unison and looked up at Muduo. Vice Alliance Leader Hong, what do you want to hear from me? Smiling, Muduo asked with squinted eyes. Jiuyue and Hongxuan have been captured by Lung Ruoxue. As the leader of the Dark Family Alliance, you have to stand up for them. The Vice Alliance Lord said with a righteous expression. Yup, I should stand up for them. But Vice Alliance Master Hong, don't you want to explain why they were captured? Muduo still spoke with a kind attitude. How could he be ashamed? Vice Alliance Master Hong couldn't say it. I'll speak for Vice Alliance Leader Hong. Seeing the other party's troubled expression, the other Vice Alliance Master also laughed. Then he vividly described what Jiao Yu and Hong Village had done in Demon City. When everyone heard this, they were all dumbfounded and didn't know how to react. Taking over Demon City? This was too. Everyone present could not help but shiver. Who was Lung Ruoxue? That's a demon who doesn't even care about fog. And Jiao Yu actually dared to take them under her banner. Even under the banner of the Dark Family Alliance. Fuck. Wasn't this just drawing hatred to them? In an instant, most of the people present were furious. Although the Mu, Hong and Yen families were in charge of the alliance, the power of the three families was not permanent. Among the three families, except for the Mu family, who was much stronger than the other families and was the best candidate for the alliance leader, the other families in the alliance were all equally strong. Therefore, the position of the vice alliance leader was almost never fixed. As such, the position of the deputy alliance leader was not much higher than the elders present. Chapter 28:11. I won't take it, alright? 3. Especially after hearing about this, the elders who originally had some respect for Vice Alliance Master Hong immediately glared at him and caused trouble. Vice Alliance Leader Hong, you have to give us an explanation. An elder said angrily. What explanation do you want to hear from me? We can't even be sure of the truth of this matter. Do you want me to explain? Don't just make things up based on hearsay. You're just going with whatever he says, alright? You guys watched Jiuyue grow up. Don't you know what kind of child she is? Deputy Alliance Master Hong pretended to be angry when he was questioned. Vice Alliance Leader Hong, are you going to say that I'm talking nonsense? After hearing his words, the other Vice Alliance Master beside him asked in a slightly displeased manner. Deputy Alliance Leader Yen, you've misunderstood. How could I say that you're talking nonsense? Didn't you also hear it from others? Vice Alliance Master Hong said. Yes, Deputy Alliance Master Yen. Deputy Alliance Master Hong isn't talking about you. He's talking about me. Hearing this, Mu Duo smiled and said, I'm not talking about you, Alliance Master Mu. However, I have a few questions that I need you to explain to us. Vice Alliance Leader Hong quickly said, Please ask. Mu Duo said very boldly, As far as I know, this matter was reported by Cui Hua, right? Vice Alliance Leader Hong asked. That's right. Mu Duo nodded. If that's the case, then I want to know if Juyue really did offend Lung Ruoxue as Cui Hua said. Why is it that only my Juyue and Hong village were detained, while your Cui Hua is safe and sound? Didn't they go to Demon City together? Vice Alliance Leader Hong's face was filled with a cold smile. His question had obviously led some of the elders' thoughts astray, making them doubt the truth of the matter. However, Mu Duo calmly asked, Do you want Cui Hua to be detained with Jiaoyu and Hong village? Why would I think that way? Vice Alliance Leader Hong immediately denied it. It's best if you don't. Mu Duo smiled and said, It's just as you said. We watched Jiaoyu grow up. So, I'm not surprised that she would say something like that. Everyone think carefully, hasn't Jiaoyu always been arrogant and despotic in our league? She even bullied our family's Cui Hua a lot, sometimes in front of me, her grandfather. And our Mu family was magnanimous enough not to argue with the Hong family. This is something everyone knows, right? But now Juyue is bullying Lung Ruoxue. Do you think she will let Juyue go like our Mu family? After Mu Duo finished asking, he stopped to see the reaction of everyone present. When he saw that most of the elders nodded in agreement, he continued. As everyone knows, Lung Ruoxue is someone who can clearly distinguish between gratitude and grudges and will definitely take revenge. It was Juyue and Hong village who offended her, and it had nothing to do with my Cui Hua, so she naturally wouldn't make things difficult for her. And in order to return to the Alliance to report, Cui Hua can't stay in Demon City to accompany Jiaoyu and Hong village. Of course, if you want to blame Cui Hua for being disloyal just because she didn't go through the same trouble, then I have nothing to say. In short, I understand my granddaughter. She wouldn't make up some boring lies to frame Jiaoyu and Hong village. However, there's no proof for this, so I've decided to take you to Demon City to figure out this matter and solve it. You don't have any objections, right? After Mu Duo finished speaking, he raised his eyes and swept them over the crowd. Seeing that no one spoke, he took it that the other party had tacitly agreed. At this moment, Vice Alliance Master Hong, who was shocked by Mu Duo's words, finally reacted and stopped him. Alliance Master, how could you make such a decision? Lung Ruoxue is just a silly little girl. How could she be worthy of such a large number of people? Do you have a better idea? After hearing Deputy Alliance Master Hong's words, Mu Duo asked in return with a sincere expression. Vice Alliance Master Hong was a bit listless. If he had a good plan, he would have gone to Demon City to rescue Jiaoyu and Hong village. Why would he still be sitting here? Since they're ISNT, then we have no choice but to make a trip down personally. Also, please remember that Lung Ruoxue is no ordinary little girl. She's Master Yes disciple. Mu Duo cautiously reminded. Just like that, under Mu Duo's gentle and strong influence, almost all the members of the Dark Family Alliance were mobilized and headed towards Demon City in a grandiose manner. This time, Madame Miao naturally followed along. While the Dark Family Alliance was on their way to Demon City, Lung Ruoxue had already received the report from the Silver Rats. They said that an unknown force was heading in their direction, and they even asked if they should attack them. When Lung Ruoxue and the others heard the question of whether to snipe, they were all speechless. No one could understand why the Silver Rats, who had always been mild-tempered and timid, would suddenly become so violent. However, it was obvious that the violence of the Silver Rats was not without traces. In fact, ever since Jiaoyu had announced that she wanted to take them under her wing, the silver rats had become somewhat abnormal. Aside from working even harder every day to report all kinds of news, any stranger who stepped into Demon City's territory would be regarded as an enemy by the silver rats, who were on guard against a great enemy. In the words of the Silver Rat King, "Damn it. If you want to take them in, you'll never be able to return." However, very few people had set foot in Demon City's vicinity in the past few days, so all the silver rats were holding back their anger. Now that they finally had a stranger, of course, they would not let him go. Thanks. When she saw the silver rats looking at her expectantly, Lung Ruoxue was instantly overwhelmed with cuteness. Then, she could not bear to refuse the requests of the silver rats, so she only said, "Do as you see fit." And then the Silver Rat King left with a group of subordinates, cheering and jubilantly. "Shwe-er, those strangers are most likely from the Dark Clan Alliance." Uncle Long couldn't help but remind them after the silver rats left. "Yes, it's possible. However, who they are has nothing to do with me. I just want these little guys to be happy." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. "Ai." Uncle Long sighed helplessly. What else could he say to a master who had no principles for his pet? The only thing he could do was to pray that the people of the Dark Family Alliance wouldn't be tortured too badly. Otherwise, he would be cursed again when he saw his old friends. Uncle Long's idea was good, but he was still shocked when he saw the people from the Dark Family Alliance a few days later, because the other party's situation was too horrible to look at. Not to mention his injuries, and the tattered clothes on his body. But why did these people in front of him look like they had seen their family? Uncle Long couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. Meanwhile, the people of the Dark Family Alliance led by Mu Duo burst into tears when they saw Uncle Long and the others. They didn't even say anything. Instantly, Lung Ruoxue's group fell silent. Poor thing. Why did he end up like this? Most of these people were not seriously injured, but their injuries were all on their faces. The claw marks were so obvious that it was hard not to notice them. What's more, the scars on some people's faces were like a landscape painting. If he took a closer look, the injuries on these guys could definitely be pieced together to form a map. As they looked at the familiar map, Lung Ruoxue and the rest suddenly understood. Wasn't this the map of the God world? He really didn't know who had come up with such a creative idea. At this moment, someone couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. With someone taking the lead, the crowd couldn't hold back their laughter. Hearing the other party's carefree laughter, Mu Duo and the others felt their faces burning. Sob. They were so embarrassed that they had lost all their face. However, they truly did not understand why Demon City's beasts had suddenly gone crazy and attacked them in unison. It was said that the beasts here had already submitted to Lung Ruoxue, right? Thinking of this, Deputy Alliance Master Hong immediately questioned. Lung Ruoxue, you were the one who ordered those beastie to go crazy, right? What did I order them to do? Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and asked, feeling speechless. You let those reserved creatures attack us. Deputy Alliance Leader Hong roared. Originally, he was already somewhat repulsed by coming here. Now that he was forced to come and was treated like this, how could he bear it? What a joke! Did I know you were here? Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. That's right, you didn't even inform us before you came. Moreover, our Demon City's beasts have always been docile and don't hurt people. Who knows if you guys angered them so they attacked you? Dongfeng Lin chimed in with a smile, but his handsome face was still filled with confusion. Miss Lung, we really didn't anger those beastie. Mu Duo explained when he heard the other party say this. Then how could they attack you? Lung Ruoxue was still confused. I can tell you this. Suddenly, an angry voice sounded in everyone's ears. Then an ice-blue puppy-like beastie appeared in the air. On the head of this little dog, there was a snowy white kitten that looked like Lai Yangyang. The kitten yawned and glanced at Mu Duo and the others indifferently before turning its face away. Seeing this combination, Mu Duo was a little puzzled at first, but then his eyes widened and he looked at the ice-blue puppy in disbelief. Isn't this a Qilin cub? How did it appear in Demon City? According to what Mu Duo knew, the Qilin clan had always been very strict with the protection of their young, and would not allow their young to wander outside. So how could he explain this one? Mu Duo recognized Bing Yi's identity as a Qilin, but it was a pity that not everyone had eyes as sharp as his. At least, Vice Alliance Master Hong didn't recognize him. Not only did he not recognize him, but he also glared at Bing Yi with a face full of anger and roared, "You detestable little Qiansheng! I must kill you and eat your meat today." He still had a deep memory of this dog, because most of the injuries on his body were caused by the dog in front of him. If he didn't kill this dog, it would be hard to dispel the hatred in his heart. Chapter 28:12. What should they do? 1. Kill them. And eat them. Hearing this, Mu Duo was drenched in cold sweat, and his face turned pale with fear. At this moment, he suddenly had the same feeling as Cui Hua, which was that he regretted bringing Deputy Alliance Master Hong here. This guy was too good at drawing hatred. He actually wanted to eat the Qilin cub. Fuck. Was that even edible? If you dare to eat them, they will dare to exterminate your entire family tomorrow. Mu Duo cursed in his heart in anger. He really wished he had never known that idiot. However, this was obviously impossible. Hence, his only hope was that Lung Ruoxue and the rest would not implicate the innocent. But what he didn't know was that Jiao Yu had also said the same thing, so the former Qilin clan leader, Bing Pe, had been suppressing his anger for a long time. And obviously, Jiao Yu was not enough to vent the hatred in his heart. It could also be said that Ice Soul was waiting for the unlucky guy to come to her. However, when Bing Yao heard that someone was going to eat him, he didn't get angry. Instead, he grinned and provoked. "You want to eat me? Come on. If you don't eat me, you'll be the one I raised. Your whole family is detestable. Little Qiansheng, I won't let you off." Hearing that, Vice Alliance leader Hong was immediately infuriated. He wanted to charge forward and beat Bing Yao up, but Bing Yao didn't dodge at all. Instead, she floated in the air calmly. Seeing this, Mu Duo hurriedly stopped Vice Alliance Master Hong, who had already lost his mind in anger. However, Vice Alliance Master Hong didn't know that the other party was doing this for his own good. He actually shouted at Mu Duo, "Mu Duo, you useless fellow. Our Dark Family Alliance is being bullied. It's fine if you don't help, but you actually want to stop me? Let me tell you, you might be afraid of Lung Ruoxue, but I'm not. Today I'm going to teach this little Qiansheng a good lesson." The extremely furious Vice Alliance Master Hong was not even willing to maintain the respect he had for Mu Duo on the surface. When Mu Duo saw that his good intentions were taken for granted, he immediately let go of his hand. Forget it, the other party can do whatever they want. He couldn't be bothered. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of angering the Qilin clan behind this little Qilin, and causing the entire Dark Family Alliance to be angry, he wouldn't even care about what the other party did. And now, she didn't appreciate his good intentions. Since that was the case, why should he be a good person in vain? After Mu Duo released his hand, Vice Alliance Master Hong was stunned at first, then he became even more furious. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Fuck. He really didn't care. In fact, he just wanted to provoke Mu Duo. Who would have thought that he really didn't intend to intervene? What should he do now? Vice Alliance Master Hong, who was a little dumbfounded and in a difficult position, was unwilling to admit that he had no way to deal with Lung Ruoxue and the others without Mu Duo. Hence, he threw caution to the wind and glared at Mu Duo. Then he shouted at the people of the Dark Clan Alliance. "Everyone, as a member of the Dark Association, we have always taken revenge. Therefore, we can't let an outsider bully us. Everyone follow me. Let's show them our power." After being incited by Vice Alliance Master Hong like this, there were really a few brainless fools who wanted to join in the jeering. Seeing this, Mu Duo made a prompt decision and said, "Whoever dares to act rashly will no longer be a member of our Dark Family Alliance." As soon as he said that, the restless people in the Dark Family Alliance calmed down immediately. No longer a member of the Dark Family Alliance meant that they would no longer be protected by the Alliance. This was a fatal blow to any family that had as many enemies as the stars in the sky. With that, no one dared to cause a scene with Vice Alliance Master Hong anymore. Seeing this, Vice Alliance Master Hong immediately said anxiously, "Don't listen to him. He doesn't dare to drive you out. You should know that our family's ancestor is still alive. It's not Muduo's turn to call the shots in the alliance of the dark families. Once again he incited such a move, and some people really wavered. However, those who were wavering weren't stupid. They didn't blindly listen to Vice Alliance leader Hong. Instead, they began to observe. Thanks. At this time, another Vice Alliance master also said, "Elders of the Yen clan, listen up. You are not allowed to blindly interfere with Vice Alliance Master Hong's affairs. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning my back on you." Although the Vice Alliance leader's words were directed at the elders of the Yen clan, there was no lack of warning in his words. He wanted to let all the elders know that he shared the same opinion as the alliance leader. With his statement, some of the wavering people were even more conflicted. Should they fight or not? "You guys, are you all that afraid of Lung Ruoxue? You've disgraced our dark family alliance." Seeing Deputy Alliance Master Yen and Mu Duo standing together, Deputy Alliance Master Hong gritted his teeth in hatred and angrily rebuked. However, neither of them paid any attention to Deputy Alliance Leader Hong's words. They looked up at the sky, obviously treating his accusation as air. Lung Ruoxue, who had been innocently shot, saw that the atmosphere was a little stiff. She smiled and asked, "Do you want to fight me or do you want to teach Bing Yao a lesson?" Of course, it's to teach this little reserved life a lesson." Deputy Alliance Master Hong was stunned for a moment before he said, "If that's the case, why do you keep mentioning me? If you continue like this, I'll take it as a provocation." As Lung Ruoxue spoke, she suddenly put on a straight face and said to Vice Alliance Leader Hong in a serious manner. Vice Alliance Master Hong did not know what to say. He wanted to test Lung Ruoxue's limits too. Recently, the outside world had been talking about Lung Ruoxue like she was a god, so he had long wanted to meet her. He didn't believe that a woman could really have such great abilities. In his opinion, she was a woman. It's better to give birth at home and not come out in public. If all women were so strong, what was the point of having men? It had to be said that Vice Alliance Master Hong was a standard male chauvinist. Therefore, he looked down on women who were fiercer than men. At the thought of this, for some reason, Deputy Alliance Master Hong spoke out his true thoughts. "I won't provoke a woman. In my opinion, women should only stay at home and give birth to children." Vice Alliance Leader Hong said arrogantly, "Give birth to a child?" Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes sized up the middle-aged man with a smile that was not a smile. She then asked, "If it's really as you said, that women should only stay at home to give birth, then why did you let Jiao Yu out?" She had already heard about this person's relationship with Jiao Yu from Song, so she wanted to hear his opinion. Vice Alliance Master Hong didn't expect the other party to ask such a question, and he was at a loss for words. Jiao Yu is no ordinary woman. After holding it in for a long time, Vice Alliance Master Hong finally said this. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh. With a mocking expression she said, "She's quite unusual because she wants to eat ice cream just like you. You're indeed my granddaughter, thinking the same thing as me. It's better to keep this little reserve to eat meat, in case it causes trouble everywhere." Vice Alliance Leader Hong said proudly. Chapter 28:13. What should they do? 2. He was proud, but Mu Duo and Deputy Chief Yen, who had already received Mu Duo's voice transmission, had ashen faces. This was the rhythm of courting death. And it was the dead kind. Ai. He was beyond saving. So they had better stay away from this idiot. At the same time, the two of them quietly put some distance between them and Vice Alliance Master Hong, and stood to the side without making a sound. During this time, when they saw Lung Ruoxue's gaze, the two of them even smiled at each other in an attempt to please her. Did I cause trouble? Hearing the other slandering her, Bing Yao unhappily ran to Lung Ruo and asked. No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue said as she stroked Bing Yao's fur. But he and that stupid woman both want to eat me. The ice dragon felt wronged. Since it didn't take the initiative to cause trouble, why did someone want to provoke it? Did he really think that it was easy to bully? Let him eat. If he doesn't eat you, then you eat him. Lung Ruoxue kindly suggested. Good idea. Bing Yao said happily. Then he sized up Vice Alliance Master Hong as if he was looking at his prey, even giving a few comments from time to time. For example, a certain part was too thin, a certain part was not well proportioned, and so on. Vice Alliance Master Hong was infuriated by Bing Yao's criticism. In his rage, he charged towards Bing Yao and Leng Ruoxue without thinking. However, even though they didn't know who Vice Alliance leader Hong's target was, the man and beast weren't afraid of anyone. Just as Vice Alliance leader Hong was about to approach, Bing Yao shouted at the top of her lungs, "Father! Someone is going to eat your son. Quickly come and save me." Leng Ruoxue's mind was in a mess when she heard this. It's really different now that you have someone backing you. She was envious and jealous. But who should she call for? Uncle Long, Godfather, help. After some thought, Leng Ruoxue also pretended to shout loudly. Hearing this, Uncle Long and Master Ning were both speechless, but neither of them moved. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could only continue to plead. Dongfang Yu, Dongfang Lin, help. When the two brothers from the Dongfang family heard Leng Ruoxue's cry for help, they shot her a look of disdain in unison. Then they similarly ignored her. At that moment, Leng Ruoxue was filled with sorrow. How could these unloyal guys leave him to die? Just as Leng Ruoxue was complaining and hiding her grievances, a blue figure descended from the sky like a celestial being and hugged Bing Yao. Then, an unparalleled pressure attacked Deputy Alliance Master Hong, forcing him to take dozens of steps back. He even spat out a mouthful of blood. "You dare to eat my son? You're really looking for death." Ice Soul said angrily. Who are you? What's going on?" Vice Alliance Master Hong asked in disbelief. This person was so strong. He was definitely not someone he could deal with. For a moment, Vice Alliance Master Hong deeply regretted his actions. Why did he act so rashly? This was great, he had kicked a big iron plate. "Are you deaf? Didn't I just say that you dared to eat my son? Are you looking for death?" Ice Spirit glanced at Vice Alliance Master Hong indifferently, as if he was looking at a dead man. This little dog is your son?" Vice Alliance Master Hong didn't expect the puppy's father to be so powerful. This didn't make sense. Vice Alliance Master Hong couldn't understand it no matter how hard he thought, but Mu Duo and Vice Alliance Master Yin knew that Bing Yao wasn't a dog. Thanks AI. Mu Duo sighed again and again. He knew it. How could the Qilin clan allow the little Qilin to live outside? So it had a father to accompany it. At this moment, several more figures appeared, and the man in the lead roared angrily. "Fuck! Who dares to bully my little prince?" Little prince? Who was it? Mu Duo and the others were all stunned, but very quickly Mu Duo, who knew Bing Jia's identity, immediately reacted. "Your sister." This Qilin was actually a prince of the Qilin race. Then its father was the Qilin clan leader. Thinking of this, Mu Duo's face turned even paler. However, since the matter had already been stirred up, it was not realistic for him to say that he did not know Deputy Alliance Master Hong. More importantly, if he said that he did not know that idiot, it would be a wonder if they would believe him. After thinking for a while, Mu Duo bowed to Ice Soul and said, "Senior, Vice Alliance leader Hong has offended you. I hope you won't vent your anger on the Dark Family Alliance." Are you ordering me?" Ice Spirit narrowed his eyes and asked in a cold voice. He understood what the other party meant, but he had to pretend to be confused. Obviously, Mu Duo was frightened by Ice Spirit's words. After his heart trembled, Mu Duo quickly said, "Senior, how could I dare to order you? However, Vice Alliance Master Hong's actions are personal and we, the Dark Family Alliance, do not approve of it. So, I hope that Senior can forgive the people of the Dark Family Alliance. After all, they are innocent. I don't care if they're innocent or not, but if they want to eat my son, I won't be polite." Ice Spirit said unhappily, "You bastard." He had finally found his son, and he didn't even dote on him enough. Yet someone still wanted to eat him? If he really let these people go, what prestige would he have in the future? Seeing that Ice Spirit was not so easy to talk to, Mu Duo was quite conflicted. The two of them were not on the same level, and he felt rather powerless. The depressed Mu Duo suddenly thought of Leng Ruoxue, and turned his pleading gaze to her. It was a pity that Lung Ruoxua was currently in a state of sorrow. Even if she had seen the other parties cry for help, it was hard to say if she would care. But now she was obviously not in the mood for that. AI. It's good to have a backer. Lung Ruoxua sighed. Her resentful eyes would drift from time to time to Uncle Long and the rest. At this moment, she missed the evildoer. If the evildoer was here, he wouldn't be like Uncle Long and Godfather who didn't give her face. Faced with Lung Ruoxia's silent accusation, Uncle Long and the others felt as if there was a dagger on their backs. Ugh. Do you have to do this? I just didn't play along with you. He was actually looking at them with hidden bitterness, making them feel as if they had done something evil. Dongfangyu, who was the first to lose his patience, felt that it was time for him to do something. Therefore he directly rushed to the front of Vice Alliance Master Hong, grabbed him by the collar and roared. You bastard! You dare to bully our Shui, you little brat, are you tired of living? The most important thing was that he had caused them to be looked at so resentfully. This was an unforgivable crime. Then Dongfengyu's fists rained down on Vice Alliance Master Hong. Everyone was stunned by Dongfengyu's sudden madness. Bingpa said helplessly, Dongfengyu, you've stolen my limelight. I'll return it to you later. Dongfengyu forced a smile before turning to Lung Ruoxua in a fawning manner. Shui, I've avenged you. Are you feeling better now? I'm feeling better, Lung Ruoxua said helplessly. It seemed like her resentment had successfully forced the normal Dongfengyu to become abnormal. That's good. Dongfengyu was relieved. Then he stuffed the dumbfounded Vice Alliance Master Hong into Ice Soul's hands and said, I'll return it to you. You can deal with it slowly. Chapter 28:14. What should they do? 3. Since that's the case, I won't be polite. Ice Spirit said with a smile. You're welcome. Among these people, whoever you like, just take it. We have no objections. Dongfengyu pointed at Mu Duo and the rest maliciously, and said to Ice Soul, as if there was no one else around. Listening to the two of them seemingly distributing who they belonged to, Mu Duo and the others were extremely depressed. That. You guys may not have any objections, but they do. He had quite a lot of opinions. Miss Lung, we are here to solve the problem. After some thought, Mu Duo spoke to Lung Ruoxua. Are you sure? Lung Ruoxua blinked her beautiful eyes, clearly not believing his words. Mu Duo was depressed. He thought in his heart, what's there to be uncertain about? I thought you came in a group to eat ice chi. Lung Ruoxua laughed evilly. It was obvious that she had touched a sore spot. Her words had successfully angered Ice Soul. The old Qilin who had been promoted to a father of 24 filial piety, feeling the incomparably heavy pressure beside him. Mu Duo really wanted to cry. Miss Lung, can you not be like this? They were here to solve the problem, not to eat the Kirin. One had to know that even if he was given 100 guts, he would not dare to eat a Qilin. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxua did not want to give him a chance to explain. She only said to Ice Soul, Senior, you can take away those who want to eat ice chi. Leave the rest to me. All right. Ice Spirit replied happily. The two of them had finished splitting the loot. As for the people of the Dark Family Alliance, they didn't know what to think. In the end, no one knew how Ice Spirit picked, but he actually picked all the people from the Hong family. The rest of the people stared at Lung Ruoxua and the others, but at the same time, they were rejoicing in their hearts. It was a good thing he didn't go crazy with Vice Alliance Master Hong. Otherwise, they would have been one of the people who had been taken away. That was close. That was really close. Although only Mu Duo and Deputy Alliance Master Yin knew about Bing Jie and his son's identity, it didn't affect their fear of Bingpa. On the contrary, they weren't that afraid of Lung Ruoxua. This was also largely due to Lung Ruoxua not displaying her true strength, and the fact that Lung Ruoxua didn't seem to mind at all. The people who were left behind heaved a sigh of relief, and made an inviting gesture with a smile. Following that, the remaining members of the Dark Clan Alliance were all led to the living room. As soon as they sat down, they heard a shrill scream. Immediately, the faces of the Dark Association's members turned pale, and their timid bodies began to tremble. This This voice belonged to Vice Alliance Master Hong. Why was he screaming so miserably? They didn't even dare to imagine what kind of treatment Vice Alliance Master Hong had received, and no one dared to stand up for him. Lung Ruoxue observed the sudden change in the expressions of the people from the Dark Alliance. She smiled evilly and comforted them. Everyone, don't be nervous. It'll be fine. As long as you don't have any ideas about Bing Yao, I will ensure your safety. Of course, the premise is that you don't provoke me. Otherwise, no one can protect you. In addition, the sound insulation here is not very good, so please be understanding and bear with it. Endure? Can you endure it? They couldn't pretend not to hear the screams even if they wanted to. Furthermore, they understood Lung Ruoxue's words. She was warning them to behave themselves and not to resist. In reality, even if Lung Ruoxue didn't say so, the members of the Dark Association who had witnessed Ice Spirit's strength didn't have the slightest intention of going against her. Right now, they only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Sob. This place was too scary. They wanted to go home. Originally, they had come here personally for Jiao Yu and Hong Village, but now that Vice Alliance Master Hong had fallen into their trap again due to a moment of impulse, it was obvious that they had no intention of returning her to them. More importantly, they didn't dare to ask Lung Ruoxue for her. Otherwise, if they angered her, they might not be able to leave Demon City alive. With this thought in mind, an elder stood up immediately. He didn't care about the presence of Muduo and Deputy Alliance Master Yen and said directly, Miss Lung, we're here for Jiaoyue and Hong Village, but now that Vice Alliance Master Hong is gone, I don't think we need to stand up for them anymore. Let the Hong family solve their own problems. Our alliance won't participate in this. So may we leave now? He didn't want to stay here any longer. Leave? Wasn't the purpose of your alliance to help each other? Now that Vice Alliance leader Hong's family is in trouble, you want to stay out of it? Is that okay? Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. Although the aim of our Dark Family Alliance is for the families to help each other, there's a premise. We have to be reasonable. It's obvious that Vice Alliance leader Hong and the others are at fault in this matter, so we can't help them. After thinking for a moment, the elder said in a righteous manner. His words resonated with all the elders present. Seeing the elders of the Dark Clan Alliance nodding their heads, Lung Ruoxue smiled and asked, If I'm not mistaken, the meaning of your Dark Family Alliance is that there's someone to blame, and there's someone to blame for the debt. Whoever offends us, we'll look for them, right? That's right. The elder nodded with all his might. Thanks, I understand. Lung Ruoxue understood. She then looked at Uncle Long and the rest and asked, Uncle Long, Godfather, what do you think? You wish. If the Dark Family Alliance wants to stay out of this, they'll have to see if we agree. After all, Princess Jiaoyue and the others represent the Dark Family Alliance. If it wasn't for your Dark Family Alliance's name, we wouldn't have let them in. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's question, Master Ning was enraged. Then he glanced at Muduo and added, By the way, I'll tell you guys something. Back then, Princess Jiaoyue said that after she took over Demon City, she wanted me and Uncle Long to guard the gate for her. Muduo and the others were silent. No one knew Uncle Long, but who didn't know Master Ning? You actually want the head of the Ning family, the leader of the 8 divine regions, to guard your door? Is your door guard that precious? These words, no one present dared to even think about it, but Jiaoyu had actually said it. Damn it. Who gave you the guts? For a moment, the silent Dark Family Alliance members were all furious. In fact, they didn't know the details of Master Ning's words. Now that they heard it with their own ears, they were shocked. This. Muduo stammered for a long time and still couldn't say a complete sentence. The cold sweat in his heart was even more dripping down. It seemed that this matter was not going to be resolved peacefully. Don't say that. Your Jiaoyue also said that Senior Ice Soul and the others should serve her well. If they serve her well, she will be rewarded. Uncle Long also laughed evilly. Jiaoyue wasn't from their family, okay? Muduo, who couldn't say anything, felt wronged and the expression on his face dimmed a little. Today, he was afraid that he would be in deep trouble. Muduo, who was particularly uneasy, no longer wanted to defend himself. He felt that no matter what he said, he would not be able to appease the other party's anger. In that case, why should he make a meaningless struggle? Mu Duo, who had given up on resisting, immediately became listless. He lowered his head in dejection and didn't say a word. The people of the Dark Alliance were at a loss when they saw this. What should they do? The members of the Dark Alliance, led by Mu Duo, were all at a loss. At this time, painful howls continued to enter their ears, scaring them even more. Lung Ruoxue knew that it was not a good idea to continue like this. Lung Ruoxue couldn't stand people looking like they were on the verge of death. She didn't feel any sense of accomplishment when dealing with such an opponent. Thus, in her frustration, Lung Ruoxue waved her hand and said to Mu Duo and the rest in disdain, as if she was chasing away flies, "All of you can leave. I'll send someone to pay for our emotional damage later." Hearing the heavenly amnesty, the people from the Dark Family Alliance were so excited that they did not even bother to ask Lung Ruoxue about the mental damage compensation. They ran out of the room without any hesitation. Until they returned to the Dark Family Alliance, Mu Duo and the others still felt that everything was particularly unreal. Could it be that they had a dream before? When they saw the list of compensation that Lung Ruoxue had sent their beastie to deliver to them, Mu Duo and the rest suddenly realized that they were not dreaming. All of this was real. The Dark Family Alliance was also going to pay a huge price for the Hong family. Looking at the mental damage compensation on the list, Mu Duo and Deputy Alliance Master Yen were extremely sad. Mu Duo felt even more remorseful. Originally, he had agreed with Deputy Alliance Master Hong's suggestion to let Zhu Yue and Hong Xiuan accompany Cuehua to Demon City. He had also intended to use Lung Ruoxue to get rid of the Hong family. But now he felt that he had shot himself in the foot by acting on his own initiative, because he had also paid the price for it. This price was enough to make his heart ache. "Alliance Master, what should we do now?" Vice Alliance Leader Yen asked, slightly flustered. "What else can we do?" "Compensate." Mu Duo helplessly sighed. "But some of the elders in the alliance won't agree." Deputy Alliance Master Yen reminded. "Is this up to them?" Mu Duo raised his eyebrows and said, We can't let them do as they please." Vice Alliance Leader Yen said dejectedly. After that, the two of them passed down their opinions, and as expected, it caused a commotion among the elders. Immediately, an elder went to find Mu Duo and Deputy Alliance Master Yen, clearly expressing that their families wouldn't compensate a single cent for the Hong family's matter. They would go to whoever caused this trouble and wouldn't implicate the innocent. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.